Damn, you look crispy.
I know, dude. I'm so fucking professional. Look at this microphone.
Dude, it's so nice.
Yeah, it's like, you know what though? I don't even know if I need it. I wanted to like try to look cool, you know, like have this fucking
Like you're
Howard
a professional.
Stern microphone set up. You know, I was
Hmm.
like, yeah, that would be cool. And then now it's just like in the way. People are using their headphones and it sounds all right. I'm like, maybe I need to switch. Dude, your shit looks like we're on an Android. It's
That's
green.
what I'm like, bro. What's
I've looked
going
like I'm
on?
watching an America video. It's
Dude, it's the theme. It's
it's
the
like
vibe.
VX with a fucking green filter on it.
I'm just trying to give you PTSD from Celtic.
Oh my god. Where are you right now?
I'm in Los Angeles at my house.
Can you explain your like? Can you give me like an explanation of your like?
Of my life.
Well, just like I don't. So you live in Arizona and LA?
I live in LA. I moved out here
Okay.
and then we opened the shop. So when I go back, I stay with family and then I don't have a place out there. But then, I, spend a ton of time out there just with opening a business, but primarily in LA. And then when I have to go do the coaching stuff or working with the athletes before, training, it's down in Vista at like I get an Airbnb because they have a partnership, Team USA. So pretty easy just to get those and stay down there for a while.
So you're like effectively in three places
Yeah, it feels like it too
if
most
you're
of the
not
time.
traveling to an event.
Yep.
You're like is it what town in Arizona?
Tempe is where the shop is, but I'm from Chandler, so I stay in Chandler.
So Chandler, Vista, and LA.
Mm-hmm.
God damn.
It's a lot, but
Are you
I chose
tired?
it. Yeah, I can't wait for the Olympics like to happen because it's gonna be fun. But like that part of it being over for like the holidays is gonna be so good.
Yeah. Um when do you leave? Wednesday?
Yeah, I leave Wednesday. Should be. I leave at like 1. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
I'm
hell yeah.
excited.
I'm so jealous. Like so jealous because like Paris is my city.
Never been, so I'm excited for that
No?
too. I don't know how much I'll get to see, but
More
should be
than
fun.
we got to see of Tokyo, I think.
Yeah, that's not that's not hard. That was well, I got to leave whenever Corey and Jagger won medals, then I got to leave and it was like the most exciting thing ever just going to NBC hotel or something.
Oh wow. Oh,
Yeah.
you actually left like the COVID like loop that we were in?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. So we got to go to the which was technically that hotel was in the same type of bubble, but yeah.
dude, I think I was there 3 weeks. The only time I wasn't in my hotel was when I was at the venue. And there was a restaurant in my hotel, so it was the same restaurant every day. And I was like ordering Domino's to the hotel.
I did that one day to the village for Himano's birthday. Ordered him like dessert and pizza, so just we can have something different.
Yeah.
But
So I I want to know this because I don't even know this, and I've known you for like 4 or 5 years or something. Um, when did we meet? Like 2020?
yeah, 2020,
19?
so 4 years. No,
Yeah.
yeah, I would have been before then because I was around USA Skateboarding when like Dashawn was a part of it, and I was coaching Dashawn and Yuto, so probably 2018. If
Oh,
you were
okay.
around,
Yeah.
whenever you got hired, I would have met you right away.
Yeah. I got hired. I got hired like Josh wanted to hire me for a while, but I wanted to make sure Neil Hendricks was gone before I
Mm.
accepted the job,
Yeah.
right? So, because that he was part of the early team. So then, yeah, like I think I started consulting like late, like fall 2018,
Mm.
and
Okay.
then did we have that first event in the spring 2020? Or sorry, spring 19 at
Yeah,
the
it would have been a
TF?
nationals, either a nationals or a team announcement. I would have met you,
Yeah, I
one of
think it
the
was the
two.
team announcement.
Yeah,
Uh,
can't remember. He might have not even been on that. I don't know. There was. It felt like all those blend in together. The early days, team announcements, and all those things.
yeah. So what I wanted to know is what you were doing before that. Like how? So you grew up skating in Arizona.
Yep. So that was it. Just grew up loving skateboarding. I was talking to somebody about it the other day because it's summer out there right now. No one's skating. They act like it's the like like how people have snowed out winters, we have like heated out summers.
Yeah.
But I was working a warehouse job and I would just, work all day and then be stoked as hell. Even I left AZ when I was 27, but even then I would just work and then go skate. Like it was never like this is going to be my life, but it just was my life. It wasn't like I didn't think I'd have a career or anything from it. And I remember specifically, and this ties into things later, but I remember when they announced it that the Olympics, skateboarding in the Olympics was going to happen, and I was working in the warehouse and I was
Mhm.
sitting there like doing inventory, counting uh, like little jewelry, and I was like, damn, that would be insane to be a coach for the Olympics. Literally never thinking that I would ever be the person to do it. Just like that thought of like, damn, they'll have coaches. Like that would be crazy. And then, fast forward to when Josh and Mimi offered me the job. At first I said, can I have a few days? And then I took a few days and I was like, you know what? I love working for Dashawn and Yuto. I probably won't do that job. And I told everyone I was going to say no. And when I was on the call with them about to say no, I was like, damn, I had a flashback to when I thought that'd be crazy to be one of those coaches. And there I was about to say no to it. And I was like, you know what? I better just do it. So in mid call, I changed my mind. I was like, yeah, I'll take that job. But before that, I moved out to, actually, I was on a trip at Woodward, and then I ended up having to go to LA, and I asked Dashawn if I could stay with him and Steve Berra. That's who
Mhm.
Dashawn lived with at the time. So I
Oh
went
wow.
down there. And Dashawn was like, "Hey, like Berra doesn't usually like having guests over like that." He's like, "So when he gets back in town, you got to dip." So I was like, "Oh, fair enough. Like a few nights of the place is cool." So I went down there, and then Steve ended up getting home, and I met him, and I was talking to him, and he was talking about all kinds of stuff he has to get done and everything. I was like, "Well, I can help with that." He was like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll help with that if you just let me stay here for the rest of the time I'm out here." And he was like, "All right." So I like killed it, like was just knocking out everything he needed me to,
You
helping
just
him
traded
find
rent,
just for the what I thought was going to be a week. So then,
but you just worked for rent. Like you were like, I'll just work for free
yeah,
if
yeah,
I can
that
stay.
week I'll just yeah, let me do that,
Yeah.
and I can let me stay. So then I was going to leave, and he's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "To Arizona. Like I don't live here." And he's like, "All right, someone's gonna be calling a little bit," and it ended up being somebody from the Berrics was like, "Hey, you have an interview tomorrow if you want to come down." And I was like, "What the hell?" Like it was a just a normal trip, but it just became, "Hey, you want this job?" And then I was like, "Damn!" Like a week later, went home to Arizona, packed all my shit, got rid of all my shit, packed a bin in a bag and moved to Steve Berra's house and slept on the floor in a crazy. He had a lot of people staying there, so there was no rooms. So I just
Fuck.
slept on the floor and
Damn, the
worked for.
dream.
Yeah, it
That
was.
was the California dream right there.
Yeah, so I had to take it. So moved out
Wait,
there,
who
and
was staying there at the time?
so Dashawn was living there. Tyler Peterson, Cody Cepeda, Tim Johnson, Timmy Jams, is what they would call him, but and Nick Dompier.
Oh my god.
What a crew! And this is like after skateboarding Nick Dompier. He's like training Steve Berra, like like helping him work
Oh.
out and all that. So he was like, I mean, Nick was in insane shape. And this is back, mind you, I'm living in Arizona, so I'm a skinny twig because I'm skating my ass off, sweating in 100
Yeah.
degrees. And I move out to California and I'm just eating like shit in front of Nick Dompier. He's like, "You can't eat like that." I'm like, "I do all the time. I'm chilling." He's like, "Nah, so many carbs." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm chilling." And then now that I got heavier, I'm like, "Damn, I should have listened to Nick all that time."
Yeah.
But he was on it. Like, dude was like just he was the best roommate, dude. He'd be like, "Oh, I cooked you some extra whatever." Like Nick was just is a great dude. But yeah, it was such a crew of people. Like I remember before I met Cody, like I was like, I don't like that dude because he won battle at the Berrics. I like pros. I don't like Joes. Like I
Yeah,
had,
like judgy ass
yeah.
skater attitude.
And then like Cody's one of my best friends to this day now. Nick,
Yeah.
Tyler, everyone, Timmy, they're all great people. So it's like people you would never, you always just assume things about people. Then you meet them, you're like, oh, this is the best. And then some of your heroes you meet, and you're like, ah, oh, this dude sucks. So
Yeah.
skateboarding's funny like that.
Well, the cool part is a lot of you were kind of on a similar level of like, you know, like an amateurish level in your
Yeah,
careers.
yeah,
Like none of you were, except for Nick. The rest of you
yeah.
are kind of like younger guys that are like excited to be there. So
It was fun. They were like that. That time was magic. I tell parents are always complaining like, oh, I need my kid to like have the support and whatever. Like, I'm not complaining, that's a harsh word, but they're anxious to get their kid to the next level. And I always tell them like,
Fast.
hey, enjoy this time. I'm like, this is the times. Like, once they make it big and they don't need you around and they're gonna be traveling the world and stuff, you're gonna remember like, I miss the times when I took my kid to those contests or spent all that time. Like, I think constantly back to the times where I was sleeping on the hotel room floor of Dashawn or Yuto and just were making it work, and now they're both superstars. But those were the times. I'm
Yeah.
happy for them now, but man, we had a lot of fun back in those days.
Yeah. It's weird though, because what I learned is like every era of your life, you eventually look back and feel that way. Like
Yeah,
I
I
can tell
bet.
you about an era from like 5 years ago, and I was like, man, those were the times. And like when I was in it, I was like stressed out or wishing it was over, But like even like I could reflect back on USA skateboarding for 3 years and be like, man, that was such a fun time.
Oh yeah,
And so like every era of your life, when you get older, you start to think of every era as that.
I mean, that's
And
kind of
it's weird.
that's good perspective to be like be in the moment. I guess it's all
Yeah,
good
it's not
times.
easy,
Yeah,
but I can promise you, with me, every phase, like looking back, is like a different chunk.
yeah.
And you'll be like, oh, that was a good chunk. It's never gonna happen again.
Oh, dude, there was a unemployment chunk where me and my
Yeah.
friend filmed a video part, and we're like, we kept calling ourselves pro skaters because we just get up and go skate every day, no work whatsoever. Just it was a good time. Yeah, there's times in your life. I guess you could do that for every bit of it.
Hmm.
It's fun.
So, what was your job title like at the Berrics?
So I was Steve's personal assistant,
Oh
but
wow.
that meant everything. So he wouldn't come in till little afternoon. So I would get in and help with the canteen in the mornings, and then pretty much be on hand for whatever. And then when Steve would come in, we would stay till like 1 a.m. just working on ideas and stuff like that.
Okay.
He's an amazing ideas person. He
Hmm.
and his process is intense. So sometimes they're late nights. So we yeah, that could then I'd have to get up. But I didn't have a car, so I was having to take the train, like skate down to the train, take the train to downtown, get to downtown, Uber to the Berrics, and man, talk again. Like I miss those times
Yeah.
of just getting on the train. It was a good time, but
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's weird.
yeah. But no, but that was it. Like I don't think I slept or I got any time to myself, but it was like very exciting, especially being from Arizona and so far out of the scene. Like really good, like boot camp to what skateboarding in the industry could be like, and working for intense people and all that. Like it was really trained me to do everything I do now.
How old were you then? Like in the
I was
Berrics? Like,
27, so I wasn't like it's not like I'm was young out here or anything. It was like a real abrupt life change, and like, but
that.
a thing I'm so glad I did. But it was like I was 27. You think that was like taking that leap of faith has passed you by, especially when you're in your 20s. You think it's all life set in stone, but
Yeah.
lesson to anybody, it sure as hell ain't.
Yeah,
You
it's
can do
funny.
whatever.
I got a late start too. Like I I started writing for skate mags in like 2001, but I was in New Jersey running a shop until I was 28.
Oh wow,
Like I
yeah,
got here 2 months before I turned 29. So basically,
yes,
everyone my age that were my friends already out here that I met through the industry, like from New Jersey, everyone had already been in the industry like 10 years, like since they were like 19 years old. Like at a
yeah,
warehouse or something, right? So I was like new to the industry at 28. So
wow,
there was definitely like an interesting feeling of like being new
yeah.
at an older age when like everyone my age was so settled in and comfortable and relaxed, and I was like what do I do? I got to go to this, I got to be present, like, and I was excited too, like a noob, like I got to go to every premiere, every art show.
I
And
know that vibe. I said no to nothing. Like any bit of work, I'm doing it. And it definitely felt like, I was a lot of the guys' age, maybe just a little younger, but I felt so much younger because it felt like I'm the new kid at school. Like you said, you're like, I didn't know anybody in the industry. The only ones I knew were like up and coming skaters. Definitely nobody solidified. So
Yeah.
everything was new. Every relationship was new. You know, I wouldn't get too starstruck, but man, that first time Eric Koston and Guy Mariano walked in the room for a meeting, I was like,
Yeah.
I
Those are
have
the two.
attachment to those two. Yeah, anybody would be like that, but Guy as a skater means a lot to all of us. So that one, gets you emotional almost. So it was yeah, it was those early days were fun.
But those are the two guys. It's so funny you said that because in my head, ever since I got here, right? Um, the two guys I see that I still get that a weird feeling is like Costin and Guy. Like whether they walked into the Weekend Buzz studio or I'm like, I see them walk into like a premiere or whatever. I'm just like, that's Eric Costin. That's
Dude,
Guy. You know,
they'll do it anytime. They just have this
it's like
presence.
the goat feels, like you're just like, but those are my exact two, I guess
Yeah,
Gino as well, but
Gino
yeah,
too. It's funny because when I met Berra, it was so like a transactional, like working thing, So
hmm
I didn't ever like as a kid. I was a big fan of Steve Berra,
hmm
but once I started working for him, I forgot he even skated. It was like this different Steve. Until one night we were skating the park and he grabbed one of our boards and he does like a front side flip and a back side flip, and you're like, oh
yeah,
shit, that's that Steve Berra.
the Barra backside flip.
Yeah.
He
You
has a
see
good
what
back three too.
he has, dude. Any flip trick he has pretty good. Like he just has a good style when it comes to his flick and everything. And it was funny. I remember that moment. Like, holy shit! I forget this is that Steve Berra, not just the guy I work for.
hmm
It's too funny. But yeah, no, definitely Guy and Eric are just like tripping. And then Atiba, Akko. There was so many faces around that place that you're just like, wow. It was especially those early days. It was still doing really well. So it was just a ton, the who's who of an office.
So you knew Dashawn. Oh wait. You said the creative process with Barra is intense.
Yeah.
Like, just give me like a description of what that means exactly. Because I know he's creative. He has crazy ideas that you have to make come to reality. And
Yeah.
he's worked in like film and all these things. Like, but but what is that process like?
I mean, he has a lot of literature and stuff that he bases a lot of his processes on. So a lot of that comes from that. But then like he'll have an idea, he'll map it out to who's doing it, who's what, and everything long before he's ever spoken to anybody. But it's like he really is detailed when it comes to it, and he whiteboard the whole thing, and then has people taking notes. But he can just get really passionate about it, and then he wants to hold everyone to his same standard
Mm-hmm.
of excellence in his mind. And it's funny because I find myself as somebody who really enjoys working my ass off, but not everybody does. Even if they love skateboarding, some of them just want to clock out, and which is fine. Not everyone's built the same, but Steve
Yeah.
expects you to to put in the extra mile. So he's just intense when it comes to like he'll map out something completely, and then it might not turn out the way he had envisioned just because of his ideas are pretty grand, and they work most of the time, but you're just like, he has a really, really in-depth and detailed and grandiose idea of how things should work, which, I mean, shoot, that's any of the great ones, right? They all
Dearly.
expect that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they all are like that. I mean, you think how people say insane stories about Elon Musk, but he just doesn't understand how people can't just work 24/7. They're like, dude, that's not how everyone works. He just doesn't understand that people don't do that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The one thing I learned over the years is like your level of expectation of other people's passion about the project or ability to work 20 hours instead of 10, like that's where sometimes things can go wrong because like you're leading it or it's your idea and you think everyone is on the same like level,
I
you
had
know?
an incident of that this week where, with the skate shop, I was talking to somebody and I was like, well, why isn't everyone just doing this? He's like, well, do you ever think that everybody doesn't love skateboarding as much as you? And I was like, it was a real gut check, but a reality check of like, I am like psychotically obsessed with this thing since I've been a kid. Now, maybe not everybody is. And it's like, gotta measure my expectations for everybody and not expect them to all be how I want to do things.
Well, not everyone owns the shop either,
Yeah, that's for damn
right?
sure.
So there's a different incentive.
Yeah,
But
100%.
yeah, it's like I get it, but it was interesting sort of getting more mature and learning like, okay, I'm your manager or whatever. I have this idea. I need you to do something. And then you have to wait for their speed and then you have to be like, sometimes teach them or correct them and be
Yeah.
patient and hopefully not be an asshole or get frustrated.
And it's hard to not like a lot of people like a lot of people would say Steve would be an asshole or something, but it's like he's just so passionate about what he's doing. Like he might lose his shit, but he just wants it to go a certain way. So it's like, obviously he has a ton on his plate at all times, and people, have their opinions of the Berrics or not, but he tries his ass off on everything he does. So,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, what he built and accomplished, like whether it's his career or the skate career, the Berrics, it's like there's credit due there. You can't do that
and no one can
without
deny,
drive and,
yeah.
and talent and ideas and follow through.
And you can't like at a time the Berrics was really on top and really leading the charge. And same you could say about his skate career. Like the man has done it. Even and people. It's one of those things that we'll look back on and be more grateful then because it's just like we're living in such a time where everything moving so damn fast, like we can't even comprehend anything. So he was on to the next thing. So I think later in skateboarding history, that'll really be what was the catalyst for how it all works now. Social media parts, everything really came from that little era. It's pretty crazy.
So you knew Dashawn from Arizona,
Yeah.
right? And then, so how do you get into the mix where you're like sort of with Dashawn and Yuto and being more than just like a friend? You're like sort of coaching them,
It
helping
was a
them,
coach,
like because
assistant,
when I first
everything.
learned about you, and like it was like we're interviewing this guy and blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh, I've seen that dude at Street League. Like basically everyone was like, he's the guy that knows all the numbers at Street League, you know, and it was like this is really valuable, and I was like, I wasn't discounting it. I was like, you mean like that's the most important thing, kind of, and I was like, okay, if you're telling me that, I believe you,
Yeah.
and it was like, oh, you'll know him because you've seen him like on the platform at Street League. So like, how do you become the Yuto Dashawn guy who's like more
So
than a homie?
it started way back in Arizona. Deshaun was like a little kid at the
Hmm.
park who was pretty decent, and we'd be leaving the park when it closed, and he would be sitting there in the parking lot waiting for his ride. And like they turned off all the lights. It's dark. He was teeny,
Is
and me
this
and my
Tempe
brother.
Park?
This is Chandler Park, Snedeker.
Okay.
Shout out Snedeker. But he was sitting there, so me and my brother every night would be like, "Dude, we can't just leave that kid sitting there. Like we'd be so jacked off driving away.
Yeah.
Like that's insane." So we're just like, dude, let's get him, like take him home and everything. So that's how it would start. We just drop him off and be like, later, dude. And so that was our relationship with him. And then, he was getting really good at skateboarding, but still was a kid. Like, and so we made a video and he had a few tricks in the French section and I got sponsored. And the first thing they asked me when they sponsored me, like they watched our whole video and everything. It was a local sponsored, my
Like a
friend's
shop.
Ty. It was just like a clothing brand. My friends Tyson and Preston started, but they were like, "Hey, like we watched your video. There was a little kid in the friends section, and I knew they were talking about Dashawn because he was like, you could tell he was gonna be
Stood out.
it, but he, like he wasn't it yet." And I was like, "Oh, you mean Dashawn?" They're like, "Yeah," and I was like, "That kid's annoying," and they're like, "What?" And I was like, "He's just a lot to deal with." Like, no, we want him on.
He
I was like,
always
"All
needs a
right."
ride.
So then I was like, all right, like if you want him. So then he became like family. We took him everywhere. We did everything with him, took him filming. And I remember I was like, holy shit, this kid's getting good fast. But still, I was better. And then one day I come to the park. He's like, oh, like, look at this. Like, I learned a new trick. I was like, okay, let me see. And he like nollie big heeled the hip, like perfect, like first try just to show me. And I was like, oh, he got better than me now. Like it was
Yeah.
the moment, the defining moment where I was like, oh my god, he's
He's
past me.
good.
But
Good.
yeah,
Yeah.
good, good. So then he would win every local contest. But when we first started going to them together, I would be in the sponsored division. He would skate like the younger division, and he was like, "Hey, like, what should I do for my run?" And I was like, "I got to play in your run too. I don't even know what I'm doing for my run." So then that's
Mhm.
how it started. Like he would just, I'd plan a run, he'd win. I'd plan a run, he'd win, until the point where he was like getting the sponsor division. I'm like, I'm not skating it if he's in it. Like he's gonna kill everybody. So I would just go with him and plan his runs, and it just went like that
Wow.
for forever. Like it went like that to Tampa. He would go. You know, the Eatons would take him to Tampa. I'd help him try to plan his run just from what the course looked like. Then it got to the point where he has a phone, and then like we're doing stuff over the phone. Then it, fast forward, like he would win a few Dam Ams and things, and I'd help him out. And then I'm working at the, this goes all the way to the Berrics. Now I'm at the
Mhm.
Berrics, and I'm playing his Tampa runs, and I'm working like 7 days a week, so I'm not going to Tampa Am at that point. But he wins, like it was the one he won.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I remember I was sitting in the Berrics used to have like a front desk, and I was sitting there watching the contest, and I remember crying for like 30 minutes when he won. I was like, "Holy shit!" He's like, he's gonna like this is it. He's gonna.
Mhm.
This is when Tampa would still do that for you, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh, he's made it. Like this is like that felt like the biggest thing that could have ever happened. You know, fast forward to now, obviously it's insane, but he was like, I just remember crying, being so happy for him, and then he came back, and it was like, oh, like now he gets to go to that street league event in Barcelona, like the Open, and
Mhm.
I was like, oh, this is easy, and he was like, what do you mean? I'm like, street league's pretty easy. Like you could see what tricks scored what, and then you just do those. Like you know what's going to score higher than this or that. So like it's pretty easy little strategy compared to a run. You're kind of just at the mercy of the whoever's judging. I was
Mhm.
like, street league's pretty honest with like, okay, this dude 270 lipped. You know this usually gets like a 7.8. So you know if you need a seven, you know you got a 270 lip for 7.8 or whatever. Like it
Mhm.
was real easy like that. You can kind of read the patterns. So then he goes to that and gets to the finals easy, and then him and Yuto got to the finals, and that was the first time I really noticed Yuto. He was at Tampa Am and everything, but that was when you're like, oh, he had did nollie big spin back tail on a
Mhm.
or no, that and the nollie 360 nose, I think, is one of the two. But you were just like, wow, this kid's different. So then, but that was like, so they both, out of all the pros in the Pro Open, Dashawn and
Mhm.
Yuto made it into Street League. And I was like, well, yeah, because it's easier than the other contests because you just know what you got to do. So then the whole first season, Dashawn made every single finals off of me. Like, I'd be on the phone with him, texting him, planning from, he's in Germany and I'm watching the live feed. Like, it was just like, that's just how we did it. And there was no idea of like, I'm going to coach you on a sideline or anything. It was
So
just
like
like
in real time,
in real
over the
time.
phone, you
You could see
watching
him
the live
texting
feed?
me. Yeah.
How much of a delay is there? Like 10
Wasn't
seconds?
much back then. Yeah, it was enough, especially with the people trying in between. There was plenty he could call me or whatever. So then I convinced Skull Candy for Chicago, like, hey, like if you fly me out, like he's been making all these finals and doing pretty good. If you fly me out, I guarantee he'll like probably make a podium or something. He'll do better than he's doing at least. And I had to like beg, and they paid for it. So then
Mm.
I went to Chicago, and then the stars aligned, and he happened to win that one. It made me look really good. But that was when I was first like, oh, like this dude helped him with his tricks, and then he won. Like it wasn't really a thing. I know Luan had his person back then, but it wasn't
Yeah.
really like a thing yet. And that was like, I mean, I was in the crowd. It wasn't. There was no like coaches area or a support area. Like I was just in a normal seat, and we are just like playing with like mouthing stuff to each other. And so then it worked out. There's points in the broadcast, like after he lands a laser flip and gets a high ass score, he like you could see him looking over to me, like we're just like,
Oh
oh
wow.
my god. And then by the time Nyjah has his last, that's the one where Nyjah did full splits, like on the switch frontside flip. And
Yeah.
I was like, dude, this dude's done. Like you did it. You're gonna win. And then the next try, he lands the switch frontside flip, and I was like, what the fuck's happening? Because like the goal always was like to somehow beat Nyjah.
Yeah.
And so then he lands that shit. I'm like, no, like you're shitting me. Like this dude is like indestructible. What's happening? And then the last try, he was super sore, I guess, and he missed the 180 switch crook, went in the front tail, and I was like, holy shit, Dashawn won. So that was, I mean, that's the first trip I met Jim Thiebaud. That's the first trip I met so many people. And that's, that is even, I think at that point I left the Berrics. Yeah, because Tampa I was still there, but then that whole season happened and I was already gone from the Berrics. So then it was intense. That was such a wild time. Like that first moment of Tampa to then when you win Street League, you're like, holy shit, these moments are just like, he made it. Oh, he made it again. So like, it's just another level, you know? And then after that, the next season happened, and that's more when I got close to Yuto. It's actually another long and funny ass story, but he was staying next door to us. It was me, Dashawn, and his girlfriend were supposed to stay in one room in London.
Mhm.
And I was like, holy shit, this is going to be an awkward weekend. Just like the three of us in one room. And somebody starts knocking on that middle door in between the two hotel rooms. And we open it, and the other door was closed. And then the front door, they're knocking. And back and forth, back and forth. And finally, we track it down, and we catch Yuto doing it. And he, at that point, he doesn't know much English or anything. And we're like, oh, like, you want to go hang out with us? We're going to go ride bikes, like, around the city. And he was like, okay. And, like, we rode for so long, like 4 hours. I don't think he was expecting it, with the language barrier. He's like, oh my God, tired. Like, he was so bad. But at one point, we accidentally, the four of us get on a highway, and we're like, oh my God, we're not supposed to be on this highway. And then Yuto's like, we're coming down like off of off ramp, and Yuto just, we're like talking like, where do we go? I think we turn left or whatever. And Yuto's like hauling ass, didn't understand like to slow down, and he goes through. He's like, which way? And then like literally goes through oncoming like traffic like this, like Frogger. It was like the
Oh
most
my god.
insane moment. I'm like,
This
oh
is
my
in
God,
London?
yeah, we're gonna kill this kid. So then we go back to the hotel, and I was like, hey, do you think I could like stay in your room, like on your couch, because they're in there, and it's just awkward with a couple. And he was like, okay, one night. So then I stay in there, and the next night we're all coming back and we're laughing. And then he was like, I was going into his room. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I said one night. And I was like, oh, okay, my bad. Let me grab my bag. And he was like, no, just kidding. Stay. And like that whole week was like a little fun little week of getting to know him. Like he was trying to teach me this Japanese card game, and he kept going to me, you Anderson, you Anderson. And I was like, my name's Andrew, bro. I've told you 200 times. Like, no, you Anderson. I was like, I have no idea what you say. And like by the third day, I'm like, you understand? That's what you're trying to say. You understand? He's like, yes. And I was like, oh my God. Like, so it just figured him out all week. Then by the end of it, the competition comes. Dashawn didn't make finals, and Yuto was always doing well, but he couldn't figure out like the little strategy pieces that I was like,
Mhm.
you just need like a 7 or an 8. I was like, if you just nollie cab back lip to fakie, you'll win. Like he'd already done the other crazy tricks. So then he's like, he just does it. I mean, me and Shane will say he told him. So me and Shane told him that, and then he does it and he wins. And like after that, obviously Yuto became Yuto. He like won so many after that. That rest of that season, he was pretty dominant. But that was my first time with him. And then he came back to the States, and Dashawn went back to Arizona. So I was like, not much going on. But then Yuto got hurt filming a video part. I was like, hey, do you have somebody to take you to the doctor or anything? Like, nothing. I was like, okay, like, I'm going to come get you. I'll take you to this doctor I know. He'll see you for free. So I did all that with him, and he's like, yeah, he's got to come back to physical therapy like 3 or 4 times a week till it's done. And I was like, bro, he lived with Mickey Papa at the time. I'm like, you live in the valley, and I live in Chino, like the IE, so far from each other. It's like, you're staying here, and I'll
Mhm.
take you every time, but you just got to stay here until you're done. So then he stayed with us for like a month, and we had even more fun together. And then by the time he was done, I would take him to Mickey's for a night, and then he would call and be like, hey, can I come stay the night? And I'm like, yeah, okay. So pick him up, stay like 3 or 4 nights. Then I take him home. Then the next day, can I come stay the night? And I was like, okay. And he kept doing that. I'm like, bro, you pretty much live here. You don't even live at Mickey's anymore. You might as well move in with us. I was like, we're gonna move to LA soon, so like, just come stay with us for the next 2 months out here, and then we'll move into LA. And that's how we like fully connected. And then after that, I was doing a lot of side work for my dad to like pay the bills, and that's when Yuto. I would take him to the bank. I would take him to do everything and help out like with translating, even though I didn't know Japanese. I just knew how to speak Yuto.
Mhm.
So then finally, I'm leaving one weekend, and he's like, "Where are you going?" I was like, oh, "I gotta go work for my dad. Like I'll be back after the weekend." He's like, "Okay, you come back. No more working for father. I pay you." And I was like, I didn't even think of that as a thing. Like I was like, "Holy shit!" I was like, "Are you
Oh
sure?" He's like,
wow.
"Yeah." And I was
When
like,
when
"Oh."
was this? Was he still on blind?
Yeah, so this is when what's so backstory, not even many people know this. He was supposed to turn pro at Chicago, that street league for blind. And
Hmm.
Shane was like, they were like trying to figure out April things, so they pulled the plug on that one. And that graphic exists out there. Jake Alardi found one at their warehouse the other day. Like
Oh
there's
really?
a Yuto pro graphic out there, but there's not many made. They destroyed a lot of them. So it's a rare board. But yeah, so he was in the process of going to April through that whole time. So he was on blind, but was going to April. So um,
Because wait, was he? But did he debut as pro on April? Like, wasn't it like the
yeah,
cake board or
yep,
caked in the face or whatever?
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
That
so
was
he
his
was
first
pro
graphic.
when April launched, right?
Yeah, pretty much right when they launched. So then
Okay,
that, but yeah, that was important to him that he didn't turn pro for blind, and at the time he felt like it was too early, anyways. Um, but yeah, so anyways,
but
so yeah,
I was just trying to figure out in my head like Yuto had money for an assistant, you know, like
well, you know what? He wasn't making that much, but he just saw that I helped him a lot, and so
mhm.
then when we end up
He's
moving out
smart.
here,
That was a smart move on his part.
yeah, for sure. And I didn't have the foresight to see how smart it was for him. But then I was just like, oh, cool, I'm super down. Like I was doing it for free for you, but yeah, I'm down to like help you 24/7. So then when we moved over here to LA, I was like looking at all through all of his stuff with them, like how much he was gonna bring in. I was like, dude, you know you're gonna make, and at the time it seemed crazy, like you're gonna make X amount of money, like you could afford your own place for sure. And he's like, no, I want to like, he's like, I want to save because like I was like, dude, you're gonna have the downstairs room, like, and pay me
Mhm.
800. You can afford way more than that shit, bro. You can afford more than all of us combined. And he was like, no, I want to save. So like, he lived with me for like 3 years here, and like, then probably halfway through that, started making good money, and then he moved out, and that's when I took the job. I couldn't live with him anymore. We couldn't be all together, so he went and bought a house and everything. But then the Olympics happened, and obviously money skyrocketed. But yeah, that time when we all, myself, Dashawn, and him lived here, it was pretty fun. Those like those times.
Yeah.
But so all through those times, like there's an X Games Shanghai. Yuto gets third, Dashawn gets second, Nyjah got first. There's a Street League, Huntington Beach. Dashawn gets second, Yuto gets first. Like the times they shared the podium while we all lived together was like mind blowing. Like you go home with two of the trophies to the same house. Like it was
Wow.
all crazy. Actually, the funny thing about now working with Nyjah, it's really funny the crossover. But I was like obsessed with beating him like during this time, right? And now to work with him is hilarious. But um, like I remember in Shanghai, I was like, bro, it's so windy. Deshaun's in first, Yuto's in second. There's no way this fool lands it was up his last run. And I was like, it's so windy. There's no way he's pulling this off. And sure enough, one of the Nyjah's magic moments, last
Mhm.
trick, nollie heel nose on a rail. That was big for it back then,
That was
So
wild when he
yeah,
did that.
that one was insane because he hadn't really shown that one much. But I was so mad. He had Dashawn and Yuto on the podium like this. I'm like, those aren't your little bros. Like I was like, get off.
Yeah, I was at a
And now,
bar. I was at a bar or something, and I saw that. I was like watching on the TV. It just happened to be on, and I was like, "Holy shit!" He just said, "No, he'll knows book."
that was one of the craziest like contest moments. I was like, last run, it's windy as hell. No way. And he just came through like he always does.
Yeah. So okay, so do you think? I have two questions. Where do you think your nurturing comes from? Like you have
Uh,
this like you seem like you have this uh willingness and ability to sort of take people under your wing, the stories you just told and stuff. Like, does that
it's
come from your family or?
for sure for my mom.
Yeah.
She, I mean, one, she had four boys, so she's
Hmm.
already nurturing there, right? And then her job that she did most of her life was, like life teen, like with the church. So like just taking care of like literally, I mean, she worked in the bad parts of town in Arizona. So it was
Hmm.
like she was taking care of kids who were raised in, real shitty situations and just, a lot of them gang affiliated, this, that, and the other. And she would really like, I mean, those kids I remember being raised around those kids and like these are all the coolest kids, but like she was really just helping these kids out of like really shit situations. Like some of them really turned their lives around during that time. She was always like that. And then, I remember Thanksgivings. Our family, my mom's side was like, they weren't a lot of them didn't have much money, so like, I remember 70-person Thanksgivings where she's like
Holy
inviting
shit.
everybody under the sun and making all the
At your
food and doing
house?
at my house, bro.
Oh my
Like
god.
the entire inside would be tables, then the outside side of the house, the backyard, like it was insane. So she was always just the nurturing one, even like to my cousins on my dad's side. Like, it was when she ended up passing, like I remember the funeral. One of my friends was like, "Dude, I don't mean this to sound bad." He's like, "But I thought when I pulled up, like, oh my god, they double booked like the church. Like
Oh
there
wow.
were so many people who thought like it was a mistake, you know." So, and that was that was a cool moment you could be proud of. Like, damn, mom really touched a lot of lives.
Yeah, that's
So
an important
definitely
thing.
get it from her.
Yeah, I want to talk about your mom later, but just while we're on that topic, when my dad passed away, I was 25. I just turned 25. Um, like so many people showed up to his wake. Like I guess we like read the book afterwards and like all the people that signed the book, and I had to keep going and buying like stamps to send thank you letters. And I was like, wow, like so many people came. And like at that time, it feels so good because you need that support, you know? It's
Yeah,
I just remember like really appreciating how many people showed up to my dad's. The funeral wasn't super crowded or anything, but his viewings were there were two and they were like really crowded. And it was like such
yeah,
a good feeling. And I didn't even know a lot of the people, but
yeah. No, that's definitely like helps deal with the grieving of like this person meant a lot to a lot of people, and that helps a little, you know, in a
yeah.
hard time.
Did you like having like I know how I would have been as a kid because I was super introverted. Did you like having all those people in your space, like that community feeling? Or did you feel like it was being encroached on, like you wanted to just like be alone with your family or whatever?
No, definitely love. To this day, it's probably a fault of mine. Like, oh, you need to sleep on the couch? Yeah, come on down. Like, you know, that everyone's pissed at me, but that I bring so many people home. But like, no, definitely, you know, really, really, like, just thrived off of that. My other brothers are maybe more the introverted ones that probably didn't care for it, but like, I love the chaos of just like so many people and just the yeah, I definitely to this day, I'm probably annoying with how many people I just like having around. Like, let's go, let's do stuff. Yeah, fun. Like, but it's just how I lived. Especially when you have three brothers. Like there were six of us in a house at all times. Like it definitely just was always chaos. So I just love the chaos of lots of people.
So, okay, so did you just straight apply for the first the USA skateboarding job you had where we met?
So that
Did
one.
was that like a through people thing or an application thing? Because I
So
think there was a job post, right?
there was. I remember the first time I barely known Josh because I would handle the stuff for Dashawn. So Josh had texted me like, "Hey, we're gonna make this job available. Like, you know, you should apply for it." Da, da, da. I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll do the interview. I'll apply." So then out of nowhere, I just see Mark Waters is hired, and I was like, "Oh, okay, these fools like run like that. Like this is." He asked me that first time before Mark. So even
Oh,
then,
okay.
I was like, "Oh, these dudes just hire their friends. I didn't even get an interview. All right, cool." Like I clocked that in my mind. Like they don't give a shit to do all the proper things. That's what I thought. So
Wow.
then, you
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
Mark ends up leaving the position, and it opens up again. And I'm like, whatever. I didn't want it because I didn't think it would be given to somebody like me. I thought, oh, industry heads get that job. So then Mike Sinclair calls me. He's like, hey, I just talked to Josh and Mimi Anoop for like 2 hours, like putting in a good word for you with that job. Like, you really should do it. Mike Sinclair has been like an instrumental person in my life. He was the first one, even when on the trips. Actually, he was the only industry person I knew before I moved out to California because he would just like he would come out and support Dashawn. He was floating Dashawn. So he would give me the time of day. So I'd known him for forever. So
Mhm.
even then, when I was working for those, like Dashawn and Yuto, he's like, well, what are you going to do with your actual life? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just doing this. He's like, but what's your future? I'm like, I have no idea, bro. Like, I'm just doing this right now. So then when that job opened up, he's like, this is exactly what you do. Like, it's so perfect. I was like, I ain't applying for that. And he's like, what? And I'm like,
Fuck those
they
dudes.
just, I was like that. I was like, they don't hire anybody that ain't their friend. I ain't doing that shit. I'm not stupid. Waste my
uh,
time. I was like, I applied last time. And he's like, no, you idiot. He's like, you got to do it. He's like, I just spoke to them for forever about it. You have to apply. I was like, fine, I'll apply, bro. And I don't even care. Like, they're just going to end up hiring some idiot. So I remember doing the interview with Mimi and Josh. And I was like, I was not nervous at all because I'm like, I don't want this job. But they're asking all these skateboarding questions. So I'm getting excited. I'm like breaking it down by like how the trick section works and how strategy works and everything. Just that kind of talk always excites me. So I was just
mhm.
like, you know, I'm knowledgeable as hell with that. So I was just like talking about it and whatever, forgot about it. Then 2 days later, they called and they're like, hey, had a few more questions. I'm like, okay, like literally still not thinking they're gonna offer it to me. I was so
Yeah.
oblivious. And they're like, so if you got the job, what would you do with Yuto? Like, you can't still work for him, obviously, because he's from another country. I was like, oh, I guess I just wouldn't work for him. I don't know. And they're
Oh
like,
wow.
okay. They're like, because we wanted to offer you the job. And I was like, huh? Like, I was like, oh, shit. I didn't. And I literally asked them, like, hey, can I get like 2 days to think about it? They were like, they for sure were confused. They're like, okay, yeah. Like, I remember seeing like their faces because they like, scheduled a Zoom. They're like, yeah, that's fine. And I was just like, I don't know. And I called everyone under the sun, Scuba, Mike, everybody. I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna do it. And Mike was like thinking I'm crazy. Scuba was like, yeah, do what you feel like. Like, so then the consensus was, I was like, you know what? I love, like, who offers you a job like how Yuto offered me? Like, who wants
Yeah.
to leave that? Somebody who's so grateful. And it was just like, imagine, like, my job was constant fun. Like, the serious stuff was so easy. And then, like, going to go take them, oh, they got to go meet up and shoot a photo in the streets. They got to go do, it was just like being around sessions all the time and getting paid for it. So I was like, no, I don't think I'm going to do that thing. It sounds like, not like what I want to do. And then, like I said, have that flashback when I was about to tell them no to, like, wow, it'd be cool to be a coach for the USA. And
Mm-hmm.
there I was about to say no. So then I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And then I started calling everyone after. I'm like, I took the job. They're like, what the hell? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I just changed my mind. So then it started. That's where you kick in, and we all know each other since then. But
Well, the interesting part of that is there was literally like one job you were perfect for in the industry.
that's what Mike knew. Mike had the foresight to know that that's
Yeah,
all I'm good at.
it didn't exist. It didn't exist
Exactly.
because, like, I don't even think Mark was on that level. I think he was
Yeah.
more like team managing. You know,
No, and
but but you brought in the other level of like the strategy and the
yeah.
numbers and getting the skaters to think differently about.
So Mark was great.
Yeah.
He gave me so much of his time when he was the team manager for the team, and he would just explain things to me, and like, what a great human.
Hmm.
But it was funny at events, like, I'd be like, hey, like, that's wrong. Like, the rule book says this, and this. Like, that's not how it works. And he would be like, all right, and he'd grab me and take me up to the judges booth. Like, and they'd be like, oh hell no, every time they'd see me, because like, I would get people extra attempts, extra lines, like everything, because it'd be like, no, you messed this up, or
You're the
no.
snitch.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my
to
god, the
this
street
day,
league snitch.
World Skate like made rules of like, if you have a problem, you have to submit it on paper and we'll respond to you within 24 hours. Like, there's no more talking to the judges mid contest.
Oh
And I feel
wow.
like a lot of that was for
They
myself, but
made an
I do.
Andrew rule. It's like how there
Yeah,
was a Malto rule for Battle of the Berrics.
yeah, it was for sure the guy coming up screaming at us rule. But Josh was actually funny as hell. It was a contest before I took the job. Like, it was just one where I was coaching Dashawn, and it was
Which one?
It was the one in the middle of nowhere, China. Did you go that one? Like, literally middle
I
of
wasn't
nowhere.
there. Yeah.
So the event's like, we land in a city we've never heard of, massive city, then 3 hours to the outside of it on a bus, and you're just like, we're in the fields, out in the middle of nowhere. Like, what's going on? But I remember it was Matt Milligan's first contest being the head judge, and Trent McClung does a line, a perfect line. Mind you, I'm not coaching anybody but Dashawn and Yuto. So I'm like, if I speak up because I think something's wrong, it's just because I think it's wrong. He lands the whole line and got a 50. And I was like, it's dead silent. There's no crowd or nothing. And all you hear me is a 50. And like, everyone looks over at me. And then I walk, like, the judges are up there. And I walk over and we're just having a shouting match from the ground to like this tower. So when Josh interviewed me, he's like, hey, do you remember when you had that shouting match in China? He's like, you're not gonna do that anymore. But like, there's something about the old Wild West days of World Skate that were so fun. Like, they're doing a much better job nowadays, but it was, those days were super funny. But
Dude, that's
but
like
no,
such a baseball moment.
that's
You know what I mean?
literally.
Like someone running out to the pitcher's mound or the ump and yelling
Yeah,
and
it
the
was.
dugout. When we were at USA Skateboarding,
Mhm.
um, essentially the organization imploded on us.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, half of us went, uh, half of us disappeared before others.
Yeah.
Um, you, how long were you there before? you guys quit?
I got there in 2020 October and quit in September of 22. So
Oh, okay.
almost just shy of 2 years.
Yeah, because we did the Olympics. We
Hmm.
brought home some medals.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah. So, and you guys, it was so we got let go, me and Josh and some other people,
Hmm.
and then you guys sort of realized you weren't happy with how things were going because there was like some super fucked shady people in there. um, and everything was wrong, right? I mean,
So
is
bad.
there a diplomatic way for you to describe what some of the issues were for you guys? Because it was you and Mimi and Alexis
I think
and
it's if we just don't.
you all
Yeah.
resigned at once together to sort of make a statement.
Yeah. So it's easy if we just don't name people. But
Yeah, yeah, go
so
ahead.
what happened was everything went down with whatever went down that nobody had a part of besides, it was just some mismanagement by one person. And that was unfortunate.
Someone got too much power somehow. Let's just say.
Yeah. So then, we're there and we're promised by the board, like, oh, it's gonna be different and all good. Well, for whatever reason, they had it all against Mimi. Like, I don't know why. Like, we on the audit that happened, like the sports performance came back perfect in the audit, and then somehow they became obsessed with changing how we were doing things. Now, mind you, as the only male on that staff of us three, I got treated amazing by that board of directors. They had me in on a one-on-one. They're like, "Oh my God, Andrew, you're the best."
Mm-hmm.
No questions about my salary, no nothing. They were just like, "What are you up to?" Da, da, da. For my counterpart, Alexis, they were very rude to her. They asked her how she got to that amount of money she makes. They asked her this, that, and the other, and
Oh wow.
it was very like when I'd hear these things, I'm like, that is very different than how I'm being treated. And then there was a meeting at one point where a male member of the board of directors told me, like, well, Andrew, with Alexis and Mimi on the call, Alexis Sablone and Mimi Noop, two of the most incredible women to ever grace skateboarding. Like, Mimi Noop got fair pay for women before that was ever a thing in the real world. Like, at
Mm-hmm.
X Games, I remember
Yeah.
reading that as a child and being like, damn, they could do that? Like, fair pay for women was so out of the question when she got it. Like,
Yeah.
and so Mimi, and an amazing career herself, and then Alexis and this gentleman said, "Oh, we just got to get on a call without all these women so we could talk man to man." And I was like, "You
Oh
just
fuck.
said that in front of these two?" Like, it was just always something crazy. And I will have to say, they treated me great and thought they saw value in me, but I was not down for how they were treating the other two. And then it was just impossible. Like, where they were leading it was just going nowhere. Like, they were addressing all the wrong things. They weren't fixing anything on their end. That was the main point of things needing to be fixed. So then we were just like, we don't want to quit, but like, we have to. It's the only way for the right thing to happen for the kids. Like, this program's got to be totally redone from the top to bottom, and it's not going to happen unless something drastic happens. So, like, we tried to wait it out, we tried to see, and it was just like the leadership was just losing their damn minds. So then we'd quit, and then that's when all of a sudden the decertification came through from the USOPC. All those things started happening, and it sucked because I didn't want to leave that job. Like, I was getting paid complete shit before, and then after the Olympics, I got a raise to a livable California wage. And when people heard it, they're like, "Oh my God, that's so much money." I'm like, I still have to have roommates. Like, I don't make that much. I just don't make slave labor money anymore. Like, sick.
Yeah.
So everybody had an opinion on things they didn't need to have an opinion on, and yet, like, the things that were important weren't getting fixed. So then we quit. Decertification comes. New group comes in. The new leadership had a meeting with me. Like, one, would you be interested in coming back? And I was like, yeah, things were different. And then the other thing, I was like, look, no matter what, you will not be able to fix this. There's too much going on. You have to let it just burn and then try to be the next group. And they were like pretty confident in their ability to fix things. To their credit, they fixed a lot of things. To their discredit, they just didn't understand the space they were getting in and accidentally created different problems. So it's a really complicated space. And there's people who are like, well, I could make an NGB, I could do this and that. And it's like, it is a very complicated space, and you better have all your ducks in a row if you're going to do something like that. But you know, when I left, it hurt because I loved what I was doing a lot, and I still, like, you know, I think I've been blessed to enough people brought my name up, and you know, the USOPC was interested in bringing me back on. But like, I really, once I left, like, I really enjoyed what I was doing, you know, and like you said, it was really one of the only things I'm qualified for in this whole thing. So it
Yeah.
was like, damn, what's next? Like, I'm down to do whatever, but I was just like, man, that was fun, and to have the ability to come back and continue to do it and go to my second games is like nothing short of incredible after everything we've been through.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I mean, that wasn't my first layoff rodeo, you know? So I was like, all right, fuck it. I've survived this before.
Yeah.
But I got one question and then I want to ask you about the toll that that situation took on you because we spent a lot of time on the phone and I was upset in a different way that you were, but the way you were upset, I had been upset in the past about other jobs. But this is a very selfish thing I'm going to do. I want to ask, when I was fucking whistleblowing USA skateboarding and going crazy, was I telling the truth?
That's what's messed up. A lot of people say he wasn't. He was. You were telling the truth on all kinds of shit, and it was like it was a hard pill for people to swallow, but it was the truth. And you know, I mean, if it wasn't the truth, people wouldn't have paid you what they ended up having to pay you and do all the things they had to do. So that's where it's just funny because people want to assume things from the outsider. Brink's crazy. Brink all this. I'm like, he's literally fighting for what's right now. Mimi is Mimi is a strategist to the core, and I was
Mm-hmm.
a part of when she left. So I was following, and Alexis was following. We were following her strategy. We're going to release the statement, and we're going to shut our damn mouths and let the process play out. And
Mm-hmm.
so I couldn't jump in and be like, "Brings right." Actually, like we had to shut the hell up, and I know that was frustrating for you or for anybody else, but it was like we just had to do it that way, just
Well,
to
yeah, but that's why you all have jobs again and I don't.
Hey, if it wasn't for Mimi forcing me to shut up, I was losing it every day. I'm like, I don't even care. I'm gonna go talk all kinds of shit. She's like, no, 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 like calm
Yeah,
down. I was
don't
like,
do a
shit,
brink.
yeah.
I mean, I had other stuff going on. I always have more than one income stream, but I just have a thing with like getting bullied and that situation. I was like, fuck these dudes, man. There's like fucking sexual harassment happening. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking blast all these motherfuckers. Like
It was wild. Like
like
it
they
got
ceased
like,
and desisted me. They ceased and desisted me because I was emailing asking for my money, you know? But then I just started emailing every day and I was like, what's up, fucking losers? Like I would start the emails and they were like, you need to stop emailing us. Cause I hadn't worked there for like 2 months. And I was like, I just want my money. And then I'd be like, what's up, you fucking criminals? Like with everyone on the
oh
board
my
CC'd.
god, it
And then,
was insane. Like it was. What was crazy was, you know, what happened with you know the CEO before, like happened, and that sucked, and it was mismanagement or whatever. But
yeah,
then like things really went to shit. Like I could not believe like when like you'd hear, oh, this person said this, you're like, what the hell? Like everything just lost its mind as soon as like the whole first audit came and everything, and then
it
you
got
know
pretty
people,
wild.
it got like I couldn't believe the meetings we were having. I had at one point I was on a Zoom and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like a specific person was like lying every single moment to like get their way. Like, oh, today the law works this way. The next day the law works this way because it benefits me today to tell you guys this. And I'm like, no, it's not this. And I was just like, got off the call. Like it got so bad that I was like, I can't even hear this shit anymore.
Yeah.
It was insane.
I just wanted to. So I'm not saying my reaction was normal or smart.
He wasn't lying.
But I just want to confirm that I am not pressuring you in any way and that I was
No,
telling the truth about everything I whistle blew.
there's no gun to my head. Rob Brink, it benefits me in no way whatsoever. I'm just telling the truth about what happened.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Yep.
you. That's all. I've been
No.
waiting. That's the only reason I wanted to interview you so we can
Yeah.
stop
All
now.
right, we'll see you, bro.
No. But okay, so I went through this with my time at Soul Technology. Um, very passionate, loved the fuck out of that job. Things took a dark turn. I left. I felt wronged by the company. I'm not going to get all into it and get all angry. I still feel the same way, but this was like your first job, right? In skateboarding, like it's your first career job.
Yeah.
You're excited. You don't really have a backup plan. All this shit implodes. People are hella sketchy and corrupt, and you went through like a year and a half of like abuse. It like what we went through could be considered like there was some emotional abuse. There's all these terms for what we went through at USA Skateboarding. Um, you were like super fucking depressed. Like you'd call me and you'd be like, I need to talk. And I think this is where we like really became friends, actually.
Yeah, for sure. It
Um,
was tough.
but talk about that feeling, because like the the hardest thing about working in skateboarding is when like skateboarding breaks your heart like that,
Yeah,
because
oh yeah.
you're doing the thing you love, and this, maybe I'm gonna sound like all fucking hallmark sentimental, but you're doing this thing you love for your whole life. You make a living at it. You finally made it, and then skateboarding in some way kind of like screws you over, you know,
Hmm.
and it's super hurtful.
Yeah.
And so, like, just walk me through that experience for you, because I don't know. I think a lot of people probably think working in skateboarding is always amazing and always cool, and it's not like being in the corporate world where you get laid off and fired and damaged, you know.
Well, yeah. So for one, on the any skateboarding staff person you've ever seen, whether they're the TM at a brand or whatever, like no one's getting paid shit. There's definitely a one percenter of skateboarding staff type of thing. Like there's a few who make money, but it's almost the same as pro skaters. Like the top pros make money, and your favorite pros for weekend ain't making shit. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's how the rest of us are. So it's all passion. It's all like you really love what you're doing. And there was
Mm-hmm.
no different for me with my job, coaching. And so when that all went down, it was like, okay, well, let's see what happens now that we quit. And like, nobody, right when we quit, everybody had our backs. Everyone's calling everybody. But once it got farther and farther away from that shit, you're just like, man, it's quiet. Like, man, there's no one, like, no one's hitting me up. Like the skate, like now to the credit of a few skaters, and I won't say their names just I don't want to alienate any of the other ones, but like some of them really had my back really hard. That meant a lot. Like, but some of the other ones that you thought didn't. And you were like, what the hell? I like sacrificed everything for all these people. And you were just like, kind of just confused and left weirded out. Like, it was just strange. So I was like, dang, I guess they don't really need me. Like, which is like a selfish thing to think, anyways, because of course they don't. I should be able to die tomorrow and everyone should be fine. Like, that's how I want to, as a coach, that's how I want to be. Like, I want to have taught you enough that if I'm gone tomorrow, you never need me again. Like, that's what I hope as a coach now. Back in that time, it was kind of just a selfish viewpoint of like, well, I thought I was doing a good job. I thought this, I thought that. And it's like, no, they got their heads to the ground. They got to keep going no matter who's there or not. So it wasn't anybody's fault or anybody not supporting me. But at that time when the world seems to be crumbling, you're just like, holy shit, no one's there. No one's this, no one's that. So I'm pretty good because of the things I've been through in my life and just keeping it going. Like I can figure out work and income and all that thing. But like, definitely the passion was just gone. You would hear me call. I'm like, I can't believe like the skaters are one thing. Everybody else in the industry, everybody who was still involved in the processes, how how they could act, like was shocking me. And you're like, bro, that's how these people are. They just are like this. I'm using much nicer words than what you were saying,
Oh
but
yeah.
being very political. But it's just like,
That's okay. You make
dude,
me
it's
sound good.
yeah. But it was just like you really were just opening my eyes to like these people. They're just everyone's always self interest, and like you've talked about, like I'm always trying to help everyone. I always try to think about everybody and everything. So like that view is hard for me to swallow that other people can be like, so self-seeing and so like just about their own selves. So that was just killing me. Like I couldn't believe like every move friends of mine were making, like just very selfish things. They were like, that was a friend of mine. And now I hear they're talking this, they're talking that, and like it kind of just blew my mind. But it was super important lessons for me to learn, and like even just to forgive. Like I have no animosity towards any of those people right now. Like whatever happened happened. It's like sucks, and I hope everyone learns and is a better person because that's all. Like we all need that in our lives. Like we all make mistakes, so everybody should be able to like be forgiven and try to be better. But yeah, and it helps my soul if I don't carry around that anger. Even to nowadays, I hear all these funny rumors about me, like Andrew did this or Andrew did that. I'm all, oh, that's when did I do that? That's pretty funny, and I just let it slide off of me. Like
Oh God, yeah.
it
The
just
shit
like,
I hear about myself is wild.
oh,
Like
you
I'm like,
got it
where?
crazy. But
I don't even know where it comes from. Like, but I mean, there's some stuff that's so made up that I'm like, where did that come from? I understand if people might think I'm fucking crazy or unhinged or whatever. They might think I'm insecure, whatever the fuck they think. But like, it is funny. Like sometimes I hear weird shit. Like someone will be like, "Hey, I heard that you don't like anyone to take photos of you," and I was like, "What?" Like that is like, there's nothing true to that. Like
yeah,
maybe I'm like shy and not like running up to the camera with a beer in my hand, like
yeah,
screaming at the after
doing
party. But
doing headstands.
I just hear the weirdest shit sometimes about me, and like I don't care if people make fun of me. I just kind of want it to be accurate. like
Yeah,
like
that's
you can
like
make fun of me or talk shit, but just have it be accurate. Like if you don't
that's
like,
exactly. I know what you mean. Like it's funny when you hear like, well, Andrew's gonna report everybody. I'm like, I don't even know how to report people. Like, what are you
oh
talking
my
about?
god,
But then like, I hear it's funny. I heard there was a little group at a contest recently talking shit about me, and it's people I know, people I work with, and it's just like you just gotta like. I'm like, okay, you can feel that way. I ain't gonna make it weird. Don't make it weird with me. Like, just be professional enough. But skateboarding is a lot of it just like little gossip kids and like adults still acting like children. So it's been really good for my soul just being able to let go of everything you hear and just like just work for the greater good, and I could sleep at night. If the person I helped talk shit about me the next day, I could give a shit. I know I tried my ass off for somebody, and that's all I care about at this point. It's a
yeah.
and then people grow and learn. Like there's been countless skaters who back in the day I would try to help. Like Yuto and Dashawn are like the great example of times that went right. But there's a bunch of skaters I tried to help and it didn't go right. And it's like, I had to finally figure out you can't save every skater. That's the term I
Yeah.
always tell people. Like you can't save them all. Like you gotta just clock in, see if they're like receptive to the help, and if they are sick, if they're not, you just can't like keep banging your head up against the wall. But some of them, like to this day now, come up to me like, "Dude, I wish I would have listened." Da, da, da. I'm like, shit. I mean, I'm glad that now I'm in a position where you think I actually knew what I was talking about because I don't know if I did or not. But like, it's funny to see like, damn, I was trying for a lot of people, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. But I definitely can like find peace in knowing that I try to do right by everybody in skateboarding and just keep it rolling.
So you opened Faces 2 years ago.
Yeah,
I mean, you were obviously planning it longer than that, but
no, barely. It kind of the stars aligned and it just opened. It's a little long, maybe 6 months before the day it opened is probably when we started. Well, let me see. No, 7 months. But
oh,
me and
that's
my
fast.
friends in Arizona were sitting. My dad was like out of town or something. I was at his house at his pool, and we were sitting there and like just visiting back home. I was like, God damn, like it's kind of boring out here. Like the scene's not doing shit. Like what's going on? And to their credit, Cowtown's been there a gazillion years, but they're one shop. Like they can only do so many events. They can only do so much.
Hmm.
Freedom, my friend Jordan, she runs that store now, and they're doing much better than they had in the past at doing things. But for years, Freedom was just like a shop that didn't do any events ever. So,
Is that the
um,
stuff that like I just saw posts for like
25 years.
an anti-hero board or something?
Yep.
And like, oh, okay, cool.
Shout out Jim for making that work out.
That's
I'm
sick.
glad. Yeah, that was really sick because I used to work at Freedom like when I was young, so I have so much love for them, and they were amazing in helping us open up our shop. They really were really supportive. So, but we were just sitting there, and I was like, dude, like the scene needs something out here bad. And I was like, damn, we're those dudes sitting around talking about shit, not doing it. And I was like, maybe we should start a shop. And we were like, it was myself, my best friend Dylan Williams, and our friend Dave Smith, who recently passed away. Um, and we were just like, yeah, let's fucking do it. So that same day, I went to my other friend's house. And I was like, oh shit, we were sitting around talking. I think we're going to open a skate shop. And he has a few businesses. He does well. And so he was like, do you have an investor? And I was like, no, like we just talked about it today. He's like, I'm down. And I was like, oh shit. Like it
Damn,
went from
dude.
idea to investor in the same night. So I was like, oh,
That's
this we're
wild.
gonna happen. So like, we got together, got our little friend
Does
group
he want to
together.
invest in a podcast? I haven't even launched yet. He can
He's
get in on
probably
the ground floor. I
he
haven't
probably
even
doesn't he doesn't trust me with any investments right now
Oh
with how the
God.
skate industry's going. But no, he like so it happened, and then we made a group chat of a bunch of us, and like, what should we have the name? And we threw out all these things, and we ended up on Faces because like there's Dashawn's involved. Myself and my brother are involved. Our other friends, like we all are from different nationalities, completely different backgrounds. But like, dude, there's just a ton of different faces. Like, let's just name it Faces, and
That's a
just
sick name.
be a representation of like like just different sides of skateboarding that Arizona maybe hasn't been exposed to yet. So it's kind of what we hang our hat on, and we just try to be different in the ways that make us different. Like even our side of the valley, the East Valley, like there's Tempe, and that's kind of like the end of the world when people thought of going east. Like
Mhm.
Chandler was an afterthought. There was a skate park there that's been there for over 20 years, but like, and then there was Chandler Gaps, which was a really famous spot. You would see like the refrigerator down the thing off
Mhm.
the like you and the flat gaps and all that. That was famous, but that was it. And so nobody really took that side of town seriously. So we were like on an island for forever. But we were so different than like when Pyramid Country and Wet Boys and all these other groups were going on. Like we
Mhm.
were very different. Like we're very like prim and proper, but also we're minorities like Dashawn, myself, and everything. So we were just different. Like Dashawn was since he was a kid. Dashawn has been doing music. Like people think like he started it like 8 years ago. Like no, I would have
Mhm.
to go pick him up from his friends, and they were recording in the dude's like closet. Like they've been doing it forever. So we just have a different vibe. So I was happy to open a shop that kind of represents that, and it's been cool because like you see now, not taking credit for what anybody's doing, but like we opened, and then Freedom started doing more with their team and put a few new kids on. And then Cowtown started doing more videos and put more kids on their team. And it just really feels like the scene is really doing so much more than it has in so long. And I just keep being hungry for more and more and more. And that's where it's like that conversation. I was like, why isn't anyone skating? And they're like, dude, it's like record heat. I'm like, so what? Like filming
You're
it at night or
coaching.
something. Yeah, I'm doing that strategy shit a little too much. But that's what my friend Tristan told me. Maybe you just love skating more than everybody else. I was like, oh shit, I gotta calm
Yeah.
down a little bit. I guess not everybody wants to do it as much as I do. So, but yeah, no, the shop's been really fun. It was a battle to get some accounts and all that, just like any growing pains, but it's been really cool. We have really cool brands supporting us, and we've got a whole bunch of fun stuff coming up this fall. So once the weather cools down, we're gonna have some really fun events. So excited. It's really fun. It just gives us like we'd go home and it's kind of like my family is like different now with my mom gone, and it would just get real boring. We're like, why are we here? So it kind of just gives us something to do 24/7 when we're home. Like Dashawn, we just all pull up on the shop all day long when we're all back home. So it's so much fun.
But that's like a dream too. I mean, when you're a kid, you wanted to like fit in at the skate shop and work at the skate shop and be cool with all the skate shop people and like
Yeah,
owning a skate shop now.
it's fun.
It's cool.
It's a whole different like the joy I get from that is a different type of joy completely from like the Olympic stuff, and it's really like
Mhm.
fulfilling. It's definitely like a whole extra full time job, but it is
Mhm.
like so fulfilling when things work out. So
Yeah, but it's like supplemental. It fills in the gaps because
100. Yep.
yeah. So like I would have an office job, fucking Soltech, DC, Element, whatever, but I always was writing for the skateboard mag, or doing weekend buzz, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so whatever the one job lacked, the other job totally filled in. Like, here's where I'm being creative. I'm writing articles. Like, here's where I'm like hanging out with skaters and talking, telling funny stories, like being in the
Yeah.
tour van. So it like the way they sort of supplemented what the other was missing, you know?
Yeah.
And the
One
office
hundred
job
percent.
supplemented the salary and the stability that the writing career doesn't give you, right?
Yeah.
And so, and it's just rad. Like that's why I've always had two jobs or more in skateboarding because there's so much to extract from skateboarding, and
Yeah.
I can't get enough of it.
Yeah. 100
I
percent.
still I'm 49 this year soon, and I can't get enough of skateboarding. Like I think I love it more than ever, even though I'm not on my board as much. We were talking about coaching before. The the idea now that coaching is like a job and there's like lots of people trying to be coaches and like people who maybe shouldn't be coaches but they're like trying to create a space for themselves and I mean I'm not trying to like talk shit. I'm saying like some of you, and maybe it's the Olympics, maybe it's you and Mimi and Alexis, you guys like created a career, you know,
Yeah,
like
I was like,
it's like the newest job in skateboarding, kind of
yeah, I
coaching
wasn't.
and personal training, like skate trainers.
Yeah, there's a lot more of it, and like as you heard from what I said, like I was just doing it. I didn't even know I was doing
Yeah,
it when I
no,
was being a coach. All this, so like I never was like my dream is to be a coach. Like I didn't even dream to be a pro. I was so realistic about my life. I was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna have a job and shit. And I love skateboarding. That was pretty much it. I thought. So this whole coaching thing's so new, and for me, I only ever worked with like people like Dashawn when Dashawn was already good. Like for even like a
mm-hmm.
young kid, he was good as shit. So it was like I've only ever worked with people that are good. So like the whole idea of like teaching little dudes is like foreign to me. I don't get it. Like I do it when people pay me and want me to do it, but it's like it's not my passion to like let me teach this little Grom how to become a pro. Like I only worked with dudes who
Like
were already pro.
mold them
Yeah,
into something.
and I wouldn't want to. That molding of them like sucks because of like you're the dude teaching them how to kickflip. Like you have a mob ass kickflip. Like why are you
Yeah,
teaching this fool how to kickflip? So it's just been interesting that that is like it's very strange the space that everyone's in with when it comes to all that. It's just like people want to do it, maybe they shouldn't. You see people at like poods coaching little ass kids and like almost ripping their arm out of their socket. Like it is a strange one for sure. Hold on, my
yeah,
phone's telling me some device storage is running low. You should stop. Give me 2 seconds. Let's
yeah,
figure out what the
bro.
hell
I
that
need
means.
some of your clips.
I know, bro. I'm like, I'm blowing it. What else is new? Um, dude, that's the other life of a coach. Your phone storage goes to runs.
Holy shit. Yeah. I
It's
can't
too
even
funny.
imagine like the phone time, like how much you got to be on your phone.
Dude, we got an iPad and everyone was roasting it, but I'm like, hey, guess what? My phone still has battery at the end of the day, so I'm stoked on this iPad. Um,
You're carrying an iPad
so-
around like a grandpa. Like, do you take photos with it? You do
no, we
clips with
just
the
filmed the
iPad?
runs. We filmed the runs with it. It's so
With an
funny. Like,
iPad?
dude, it's so good. You just literally.
Do you use the iPad Mini? I just got that and I love it.
No, I should. Well, whatever. Whoever buys us, whatever, our department. If
Oh,
anyone wants to donate us any money, please, by all means.
I like
Uh,
how like unprofessional this is right now. Like it's just
sorry,
straight face.
dudes.
No, no, no. I'm being dead serious. Like I don't want this show to be perfect at all.
It's
I want
not. You have like a F list skateboarding person on your show right now, so you're definitely.
dude, you're a fucking Olympic coach. You brought home
No,
2 medals.
well, hopefully, God, hoping we get a bunch this time. But you know what? I'm not gonna lose
You
my
should
shit
get
if
a
we don't.
commission.
No, hell no. I just like it's such a the cool thing the Olympics have done is created this giant international field of badass kids. But then the
Mhm.
shitty thing for me as a coach is we have this giant badass field of international kids. We're like,
Yeah.
damn it, I just want to win so bad. But like, one, it's up to your skaters to land their shit, and then two, it's like, dude, when someone like Yuto's on fire, like you're like, holy shit. It's like if somebody like Nyjah's on fire, like the world dealt with Nyjah being the only one for so long, and now we got like five Nyjahs. You're like, God damn, everyone's so
Yeah,
good.
it's like split up a little smaller. Like three
Yeah,
wins here, 3 wins there. Like
yeah,
it's not like 20 wins in a row. Yeah, I
definitely
saw a
not.
podium the other day, like from the last World Skate thing, and it was like 3 10-year-old girls or 12-year-old. It was. I was like, dude, what planet am I on? Like, I'm not mad at it at all. I'm just like, nothing could be more like foreign looking to me, and I
Yeah.
don't mean foreign like they're from Japan and China. I mean like that is like the something I have never seen before. Just the
It is.
podium of like 12-year-old girls who are incredible. I just found more coaching questions that I forgot.
Lay
They're
them
more
on me.
rapid fire maybe.
Hmm.
So, are there skaters that are like beyond coaching?
Oh yeah.
Like like when I say beyond coaching, I mean they don't need a coach.
Oh yeah. There's those too. But then sometimes, like, no matter
Like give
what,
me an example of a skater like I want
it's
to
kind
say
of
Nyjah, but I don't think that's true.
he's he definitely. If I died tomorrow, he's got it. He gets it.
Oh yeah.
But he definitely like relies on me for things like double checking things, doing all that. Like we've definitely changed shit off of his stuff, and I feel like we've changed the way as a team, he and I, the way he goes about it, because it's not 2008 anymore or 2000 whenever he was destroying everything. Like he can't just go
Right.
out there and win by a landslide. He's used to that. So he
Yeah.
wanted to just go out and do those hardest tricks. But it's like there's strategy, there's building blocks. You have to like go land something and get put the pressure on people. Like there's no just going straight for the kill anymore. So I think together we kind of made his current way he goes about his trick section and all that. Before it was just like, he was used to just smashing everyone in the throat, and it's not going to work like that anymore. So that's definitely been a change. But then there's people who are, once you get to such a high level, like, Gavin works with his dad. Like Gavin is somebody who doesn't rely on myself and Kevin as much for coaching, but he definitely relies on his dad. So everyone's got somebody, whether it's a proper coach or their parent or their homie. Like it's rare to find anyone who's having success not need a coach or have somebody they're working with. Now, there's plenty of them who aren't successful in this conscious thing, who are just all over the place, but there's not many who are at the top who don't have somebody they're relying on for sure. So there's definitely like, you're gonna always have an Evan Smith or somebody in a competition who just does, they're just gonna wing it. But the
Yeah.
ones who are at the top, they have somebody. Yuto, you could say, is beyond it, but then sometimes he makes human error just off of like not having somebody. And it's like, there's been plenty of this last season where he messed up a lot, and now he's focused back in. He kind of, he works with the Japanese coaches and all that, but like he definitely, everyone's capable of error. And I just done it where he's like gets stubborn and is like, no, I want to start with this trick, and it's like maybe start with this, and he's like, no, with this, and he's like, oh shit, probably should have done that. I was like, yeah, well, it's all good. We can all Monday morning quarterback it till we're dead. I kind of just try to let a contest go. Like once it's gone, let it go. Like don't focus on it or think about it again.
Yeah. And also it's like art or something when you're in it, you're not seeing the 10,000-foot view that the skater's not seeing the same view that you're seeing, you
Yeah,
know?
no, for
So you're
sure. And
giving
I've,
them this outside view and perspective that they're like can't even can't even see at that
but
moment.
as a coach, you got to remember you don't have the same view they have either.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like,
Oh,
there,
you
it
don't know
took,
like how shitty a rail might be or
yeah, or
a
lump before or
coping.
whatever. There's so many of the super coaches who are like, oh, you could do that on anything. It's like, no,
Super
they
cope.
can't. Like, oh my God, bro. The ones who got their kids like losing their mind. And they know like a lot of the parents are more to blame for these ones, but they're like, well, why can't they do their 540 on this? It's like, dude, this wall sucks. The coping sticking out. This is wrong. This is wrong. And they don't get it. They're just like, it's a wall. Do this. And you're just like, holy shit, I guess. Um, but it's funny, like seeing they all end up figuring it out, and they all end up finding the person they need to rely on. But like watching people evolve is pretty hilarious.
Can you give me I know of course we're not naming names. Can you just give me like a couple parent like ridiculous parent situations that you have to deal with?
They're all great people, so I don't want to like single out any story, but like they could be neurotic, and like, what a word I hear a lot that even all my favorite people listening parent wise, there is the word they use is this we shit. I'm like, I know you've taken your kid everywhere. I know you've like paid for all this shit. I know, but there is no fucking we. This is your skater going to do these things. This is your skater doing the trick. It is your skater. So like,
Oh, are
I
they
don't
saying
care.
like we won the contest or
Or we've been doing weed this, weed that. And
oh
it's like,
wow.
yes, you have as a family been moving, but you have to realize your skater is the skater, and like they have to evolve past you. Like no matter what, as a parent, like your kid has to go and show the personality. Like, I mean, there's kids who've had their parents helping them out for a long time, and now they're, into their mid 20s and finally finding their voice because they held on a little too long. So it's like
Hmm.
you have to, as a parent, like understand, like, hey, 16, 17, I need to still be watching them. I need to make sure no one's doing weird shit because that's all real. Like, you got to still watch your kid, but you got to let them grow as an individual. There's two different things. You can be protective and supportive, but you don't have to be living for the kid. You got to let the kid like kind of have find their own voice. It's important in skateboarding. Like, yeah, you can be good, but if the person's boring and dull, like, you don't care how good they are as a skateboarding fan. You want the personality and all that, and so you gotta let your kid have that personality and show it. You can't live it for them.
Yeah,
So
they
that's
have to
kind
have
of,
their own creative way about their skateboarding.
yeah, or just even how they talk for themselves. Like, they just have to at 16. Think about it. Like, people are like, well, my kid's still a minor at 16 or 17. True. Watch them. Make sure that nothing weird happens to them. Perfect. But 16 and 17 in high school, there ain't no parent coaching those damn basketball or football or softball, whatever. It's the coach in them. And you can
Yeah.
go to the games, you can go to the practices and make sure your kid's not getting in any weird trouble or anybody doing anything weird to your kid. But at the same time, you ain't going out there to coach them on third base. So don't come
Yeah.
coach them at the contest. You don't
I
know better than that coach.
I never thought of that gray area, and it's another instance of skateboarding being different, right, than
Yeah.
other sports. But yeah, you have this line between, like, in real sports, you have basically like a barrier between the course and the stands, right? And
Yep.
you have a barrier. It's like this is the coach, and you're the parent who drives them to the
Yes.
thing. But in skateboarding, it's very blurred. It's like the parents are in the mix, and sometimes the
Yeah.
parents are at risk of ruining what's going on with the kid because they're annoying the people in the industry. And
We call it unnecessary dependencies, and a lot of parents will create it where, like, now my kid thinks they need me there every second of the day or they're not comfortable, and it's like, oh shit, like, that is not good for competition. Like I said, we should all, like, the world should be able to be birding in the background. The kids should be able to not be nervous and try their run. Like, when you create it, like, you need me there, you're gonna fuck up, or you need this, or you need that, or you need all the conditions to be perfect. I'm like telling these people, with the Olympic Games, be adaptable. You have no control over your kid once they get to the Olympics. Like, they are gonna, if the IOC says they need to do this, they're gonna do this. If they have to do this, they're gonna do that. And there's no like committee to go complain to get anything changed.
so we talked earlier about your mom passing away. I know you and your mom were really close. Um, and I'd like to hear the story because I know this is something we talked about on the phone the other day that we feel is important to discuss. So, would you feel comfortable telling the story of losing your mom?
Yeah, super comfortable. On the back end with technical difficulties, can I get like 2 minutes to grab a charger and do all
Oh
that?
yeah, yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
So things were, I mean, we grew up pretty, like, like a normal family. We had all my mom and dad together for the whole time. So it was like we felt like a normal family, anyways.
Hmm.
And then when I'd moved out for a bit, and my brothers had told me like, oh, things got weird like at the house. I'm like, you guys are tripping. Like, mom and dad fight, but it's fine. Like, I'm like, no, it's
Hmm.
different. And I was like, nah. And so I had to move home after, like, I think I like got laid off or something from a job. So I was like, oh shit, I'm moved back home. So I moved back in, and things were different. Like, my mom was like reacting to my dad very weird, and my dad was being like weird. Like, she would get upset at him, and he would be very blank. And we're just like, it was very odd because they're very usually like, when they would fight, they'd fight passionately. So they, I kind of took notice of that, and I told my dad, like, I walked him outside one day. I was like, whatever's going on, like, just tell me. Like, we gotta know because this is weird. And he's like, nothing's going on. I was like, are you like fucking up with the business? Because he worked for himself. Like, what's going on? So he's like swearing up and down, nothing's going on. I was like, all right, I had no clue. So one
Hmm.
day I go to my cousin's house. And we're gonna go to a Suns game, and the whole day was weird. Like, I went to leave work, and my boss like held me up and hugged me like it was a friend of mine. So I was like, that's weird. She never like says anything to me when I leave. And then when I went to my cousin's, like, all right, let's go get food, and then we'll go. He's like, no, I want to eat at home, and it's like, bro, we always go out to eat. Like, I don't even know you to ever eat at home. The whole day was off. So then we go to go. My friend worked for the Sun, so he can get us like to meet the players every time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go. I'm like, let's stop at Walmart see if there's like any shit we can buy to get signed. So we go, and I was like, oh, nothing. So I'm coming out. I'm coming out a main aisle, or we're walking this way, and out coming this way, like literally, like, oops, sorry, bumped into was my dad with another lady and like her kids,
Oh, oh
and I was
wow.
like, what the fuck, like, and he tried to say hi to me, and I was like, oh, hey, dad, like just patted him on the stomach, his little belly, and so then he like went walking up, he's like, hey, what are you doing? Where are you going? What are you doing? Like, but it was like he was clearly like pushing this lady's car, and then suddenly it was like ditching them, and then I was walking the other
Oh
way.
wow.
I didn't even know how to handle the situation. So I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, I was so confused, and I just couldn't like even process it. So then I call my grandma, my dad's mom, and like I wasn't really close with her, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna call her and see what she says. She's like, oh my god, like let's just pray about this. Like, very. She's recently passed away. She was 96, but she was very much like, let's pray and figure out what's going on. And I was like, I don't like that answer. So I called one of my best friends, Tyson, and I was like, dude, what should I do? I tell my mom? Like, what do I do? He's like, dude, you gotta tell your mom. Like, it's kind of the missing link in all this stuff that's been going on in your house. Like, you just gotta. He's a very good mentor in my life. So I was like, you're
Yeah.
right.
She
So I
needs to
call my,
understand why
yeah.
things have been so weird.
So I call her, and she's like, I'm like crying like a baby. And mind you, my mom grew up her whole life like going through a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, she's been tough her whole life. Like, she's been through a lot. So I call her and I'm like crying. I'm like, Mom, I'm so sorry. And she's like, it's all right. Like, I was like, I'm gonna come home. I'm not gonna go to the game. She's like, no, go to the games. I'm gonna deal with this. And I was like, all right. I like couldn't even enjoy sitting. Imagine sitting at the Suns game. Like, I couldn't even fucking. I didn't even know what to think. I'm just sitting there watching this
Yeah.
dumb game. And so
Well,
then
there's a
she
lot
said,
of angles. There's a lot of elements to that. Like, number one, you're like, your dad is suddenly not the man you thought he was.
yep,
You're like, dude, this dude's like a shameful scumbag, or
yeah,
and then you're like worried about your mom, and then you have to tell your mom, and then there's so many angles, and you were completely caught off guard.
dude.
Like,
Like,
there's so many angles to the what you're processing.
I don't believe things happen for a reason. I'm not that person or destiny, but
Yeah,
like this was insane. Like that, like dude, if I walked that way, he was walking
that's
this
like
way.
out of a it's like out of a rom-com movie or some shit.
Something. So then
Like,
that was the last day my mom was still her badass self. Like my dad came home and she had him tricked. He's like, Andrew thinks he saw me with somebody, but I wasn't. I was just moving their cart and da 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 da.
oh god, he was
And
trying to be
then
preemptive.
it's gaslighting before we had that term. But
Yeah.
but she was like, oh no, it's okay, come home. Like, and he came home and she was like, get the fuck out, get your shit and get the fuck out. And he was like, what? Oh, they were arguing. And she like, dude, she punched him in the lip and like exploded.
Fuck yeah.
Like there was blood on the walls and shit. She was still a badass. But after that,
Oh wait,
that was
hold on.
very good.
Bardo.
I was wondering where she's at.
And now you know she contributes to every show right at the end, like just like this at the 2.5 hour mark. I
she,
start. Bardo,
she
you
says,
good?
all right, too long.
I swear it's always like the emotional part of the show, and she fucking interrupts it.
She's not crying. No, so
Yeah.
that was the last day my mom was like still herself. After that, like it was like a few days later, he was just back at the house and we are like, what the fuck? And
Hmm.
she's like, oh, we're gonna figure things out. Like it wasn't, he's saying it wasn't that and da da da. We are like, dude, what? And my
Yeah.
cousin that day told me because I was like kind of in denial. He's like, dude, he's a funny character, but he's the most important thing he ever told me was like, we know what we saw. Like, you know what you saw. Like, he
Hmm.
kept putting it on me because my dad was trying to lie to me too. He's like, no, you know what we saw. So then like, they try to work it out or whatever. It was all weird. Like, my dad would be like, hey, do the dishes to my brothers. They'd be like, fuck you. Like, we've never been that way. Like, we were
There's no
always
more
very
respect.
respectful. But like,
Yeah.
everything was insane. Like we can look back and laugh at a lot of it. It's like very dark humor does, but it was like insane. So
Isn't it
finally,
crazy how it changes in a second? Like
oh my God,
respect, like
in a second. So then finally, like it's not working out or whatever. And so she's like, finally, like, all right, we're getting divorced. Like, get the fuck out again. So he goes and moves in with my grandma or something. And then we moved her out to this house that was owned by a friend of ours. And it was just very strange. Like, after that, she was so weak. Like, I remember we would have like our girlfriends stay with her like when we go skate, and not because we thought like, oh, if we don't keep her someone with her, like she's gonna kill herself. But she was like so depressed that we're like, you can't leave somebody that depressed just alone. It's sad to just be like, all right, bye, we're gonna have fun while you're sad.
Yeah.
So someone
Yeah.
like, credit to everyone's girlfriends at the time, like they were all like doing like the Lord's work because we couldn't, otherwise we wouldn't have ever left the house. But so it was just a real dark time, and like I remember one time she like wanted to go like go check on my, she's like, he stopped texting me, like I know there's someone over there at the house. And I was like, no, don't, like don't go over there. She's like, I'm going to go over and see it. Like, I'll go with you. So me and my girlfriend jumped in the car and we go out there with her, and she's like, I was like, let me go see if he's there before you get out and cause a scene. So I go up to the front door, like, but we drove past the house, and like I got out from
Mm.
far away so he couldn't see. And he's like, opens the front door and he sees me. He's like, Andrew. I was like, oh, hey, what up, Dad? And he just like closes both doors. I was like, what the fuck? And then like my mom comes up, she's like, "Is he there?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "How do you know?" I'm like, "He said my name. Like I saw him. Like what the fuck?" He wouldn't open the door, and it was for sure there was like a chick in there, and there was a whole dramatic night that led after that. It was just always crazy shit. And then finally at one point, my mom was like kind of like one night just lost it on my youngest brother, like, "Why are you on the phone late?" And started like beating him up bad. And so I we stepped in, and then after that, she left that night. I was like, whatever, go do your thing. And then the next morning, my older brother, who hadn't been around for a while, like came and like kicked us out of the house. He's like, Mom wants you out. Like you're gone. I was like, all right, whatever. I tried. Like we really tried to help out. Like I said, never thought she was gonna kill herself. Just thought she was depressed. So we had cool moments. Like that house had an anchor. So like one thing, like there was one like part of the day I could get her to be herself was I'd be like, Mom, let's go outside and hit softballs. Like I said, there's sports background. So like for 15 minutes we'd go do that. She was herself again, and it was cool little window of seeing her. But then after that, it was like back to depression, back to crying, be in the room doing nothing. So
And all of that, just I just want to make it clear, all of that happened after the cheating was discovered. Like she didn't
yeah,
have any like
nope.
depression. Oh, so
So
that
she had
like
been through,
really
she'd
took.
been molested, she had been so many crazy things that happened to her, but
Oh.
like she was always a strong ass person through it all. Like, and
Mhm.
so,
Like
but
when
she,
she was a child, you
yeah,
mean?
when she was a child. So it was like a lot of stuff had happened to her, but she was strong through it all. Like her dad was an abusive alcoholic and everything, but she was just strong and had strong faith in God and all these things.
Hmm.
So that was my example all the time. So to see her like that was just so different. Like I said, didn't think she'd kill herself. So we left, and my older brother kind of had no clue on how things were. Like he never would like keep somebody there with her, any of that. Like it wasn't, he wasn't, just wasn't as clued in, I guess. So I'm living normal life. I move in with my girlfriend and her parents, and like just working a job. And I remember the day she ended up passing away. She had texted me like, "I love you," and I was working at the restaurant. I didn't like reply back. So then I'm driving to the skate park after work, and my older brother calls me. He's like, "Hey, what's up? What are you doing?" And I was like, "Nothing. What's up?" Like we were not cool with each other. Like we kind of weren't talking at all. So I was like, "Oh fuck, something happened."
Mm.
So, and then he's like, "Hey, are you good? Can you like, are you, he's like, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm driving to the park." He's like, "Can you pull over?" I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "Just, can you pull over?" I was like, "Okay, let me pull over." I'm like, "Oh fuck, mom's going to the hospital or something." I was like, something got dramatic. And he's like, "Hey, dude," he's like, so mom like killed herself." I was like, lost it. Like,
Mm.
literally, I remember I was like in a dirt lot across from like a retirement center, and I'm like losing my shit, crying, screaming, and some like, dude, like once again, like I don't believe in like things happen for a reason, but like there were some ladies who had just got off of work at the retirement home, and they came over to me like, "Are you okay?" And I was
Mm.
just like, my mom killed herself, and then these ladies like were like hugging me. I don't know, like that was one of the most intense moments of my life. Like these people, like angels, like I don't know who the hell they were. I never saw them again in my life, but they were there for me in like a critical moment. And so luckily I was like close enough to like where my friend works and my cousin worked, and they're like, "Well, like where are you gonna go?" And I was like, literally, I'm a block or two away from their job. I'm gonna go over there. Like my friend owned the place, so like I go over there, and I'm like, "Is my cousin here?" And like somebody, like everyone knew me. I used to work there, so
Mm.
um, my cousin comes. My cousin's like, he's the same one who was found my dad with me, so he was like
Oh
kind
my
of
god.
goofy, and he's like comes out like, "What's up, dude?" And then he sees me crying. He's like, and I like, told him,
Oh
and then I told then they take me upstairs to my friend's office and like and I told him and the other lady, the lady who hugged me, like the weird little small world.
Mm,
Um, and so then like they're LDS, so they took me in some room and like were praying on me and did some blessings. But like if that didn't happen right there, like who knows how I would have really reacted to everything. Like
yeah.
that was a crazy moment. But then after that, like we go over to the house and everything, and like it ended up being like late by the time I got there, and it was just intense. Like didn't know how to feel. Nobody knew. My dad was split up, so then like we weren't telling my dad right away, but then we told him, and like he's distraught over it. But you're like, fuck you. It's like your fault, and it's like not his fault. Obviously, my mom made her choice, but like
Yeah.
it was just a
He was the
confusing,
catalyst.
yeah, a confusing time. So then like I go back home to my girlfriend's house, and like my aunt, my aunts on my dad's side, and my dad was there, and they're all saying sorry, everyone's crying, but it was just such a confusing time. So then even that week, so that night, 11, 27, 12, that night before at midnight, the Pretty Sweet video dropped. Uh,
Oh.
so we Dashawn and Caleb came over to my girlfriend's house and we watched the video that night at midnight, like it dropped on iTunes. And so
Mm,
like that whole week, like everyone was coming over to the house and everything. And like when it was too much, I'd get away and just go watch Guy's part, and just cry and get away from everybody.
mm.
Um, it's such an emotional part. And for me, maybe it sounds silly to everybody else, but it just was.
No, it doesn't.
Um, so so then years later, seeing Guy in that room, you're like, holy fuck, that's Guy. And then like I shared that moment with Guy, and like I mean, now we're not friends. I don't see him all the time, but he knows who I am. So it's like it was really cool to share that with him. But that was
Mm,
like that whole like after that was just so intense. Like you just would feel these moments of like blank, like you didn't know how to react. And there's so many what ifs when somebody kills themselves. Like you're just like, well, what if I would have texted her back when she said I love you? What if I would have done X, Y, and Z? And it's just like
yeah. What if I
it's
didn't leave the
intense.
house?
Yeah. What if my brother never kicks us out? We should probably still be alive. What if the hardest one for me to swallow, and I carried this pain around for years, and even to this day, there's still a little bit of it. It's just like, what if I never would have said shit? What if I would have never told my mom about seeing my dad in the store? Like she
Yeah.
might be alive. Like you don't, it's hard to know. Like that guilt of like it felt so more often like that moment that I had to be the center of, like created this entire like thing that rolled down the hill that led to this. So
Yeah.
it felt shit, even if it wasn't my fault. It felt like holy shit, I was the instrument for that. And that I mean, I haven't even been like this over this in so long, but like that that moment was heavy. Like just thinking, like even to this day, it's like, damn, I really like that. Just was heavy. Um,
Yeah. That's very difficult.
so even like that, I remember the funeral, like just feeling so like blank, and everyone's like, "Do you remember this or that?" I'm like, I don't fucking remember shit. Like it's just so like just moving along, and
Yeah.
it was just kind of crazy. I do remember there was a ton of people there. That was super nice, but it was just like there was drama around it. My mom's brother, who's like, he's the best. He's my Theo Joaquin. He's crazy, but he's funny as hell. But he was like, your dad can't be there because people are gonna try to kill him and all this shit. I'm like, holy shit. So like, dude, we had to separate the church into like three different groups and all this
Oh,
shit. It was
wow.
like, dude, the grieving we couldn't even really grieve properly because there's so much drama around everything. Even like, my mom hung herself. My
Mm,
brother ended up finding her. My youngest brother came home from school. Her car was there. Her purse was on the counter. Everything, and the one room that was locked was the storage room. And he knew what was up. He didn't want to go in there. He's like called my older brother, and so then my older brother came. They called the cops, but my older brother came and he like knocked down the door and found her. And then it's like as soon as he speaking of another weird thing, like my friend had given me this little like knife that like cuts belts. Like if you get in a car accident, it gets you out of the
oh,
car.
yeah.
It was the most
I've seen it.
random gift, and he was like, "Oh, you can have it for like for grip taping boards or something." I was like, "Thanks." I was like, "I don't know what the fuck to do with this." So like when I moved out, I just left it. I didn't even realize I left it. And my older brother found it. And my older brother's kind of like a nerd with like swords and knives and shit, so he loved it. But he had that thing on him, and he had it in his pocket. And so when he went in there and found my mom hanging there, he like was able to cut her down right away with that thing. Like my friend had given me like that he had randomly picked up. So it's like all these little weird things that happen that
Yeah.
like I mean, at least she was able to get her down, but she was already passed by then, obviously. And then, right as that happened, like the police showed up and everything. So it was super tough for everybody. I mean, I can't imagine finding her like that. My poor brother. Um, and my younger brother just having to deal with. He was the one who kind of discovered. Like everybody had their weird part in it.
Mm.
Um, it was tough. So then even after it was just like I said, the funeral was insane. The viewing was like people were mad that we wouldn't let them view her, and then even at the we did a rosary, which is like the viewing, um, and they didn't like we closed casketed it because I'm like I ain't gonna have like she looked fine like when they did her all up and everything, but like I'm not gonna have people being like oh it doesn't look like she hung herself and everyone
Oh
being
yeah.
weird and nosy. So and then people were mad at us about that and this that and the
Oh
other, but it
yeah.
was just
I
like
remember all that shit with my
yeah
dad. My mom didn't want the casket open, and I was like, "Mom, there's gonna be like so many people coming that haven't seen him in so long. Like maybe we should." He
Mhm.
wasn't. My dad had cancer, so he lost weight and lost hair, but he wasn't like disfigured or anything. And there
Yeah,
wasn't something. Suicide tends to be a little bit like gossipy, like people want to know.
yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't anything like that. So I was able to convince my mom, but I've been in that situation of like casket arguments. It's fucking crazy.
It was yeah. This whole thing was wild.
Yeah,
So
I'm sorry that happened, man. That's I mean, you've told me, but you haven't told me the whole story.
yeah, it was. I mean, and even then afterwards, like my brother's in high school during this, so like the four of us move in together, and that was a whole other thing. four grown adult brothers, like besides the high school one, living together, like, and then that was there were just years of craziness that ensued afterwards, but we got through, and but it was definitely like that moment of like that guilt of like maybe this didn't have to happen if I wasn't the instrument for it all to happen. But I've learned to deal with it, and even like counseling and everything, like it's hard one to shake.
Mhm.
And I still carry it a little bit that I feel like it was all my fault, even though I'm clearly like I know it wasn't. But that moment is like it's a hard one to live with that you are the instrument that like started all this off.
Is
And
that the hardest part for you? I mean,
for
other than her physically being gone.
well, and then also like I dealt with it now, but the hardest part of the time was trying to figure out the why and the what because you're just asking all of yourself this crazy shit. And I came back from a trip to my uncle's. I was gone for like almost a month up in Washington State, and I came back and they were like my brothers were flipping like, "Oh yeah, mom like left a letter for Ben." And I was like, "What? Like nobody called me when you guys found this or anything?" They're like, "Oh no, we didn't think it." My brothers can be idiots sometimes. So I was like infuriated, and our garage is full of like my parents divorced. My mom got everything, and then we got everything after she passed. And it was like, dude, imagine it was like 27 years of a marriage of stuff. So we just our garage was just all their stuff, and we couldn't figure out how to deal with it. So then like that night, I like obsessed, and I dug through everything looking for like, well, if she left a letter for Ben, she left one for me. Like, of course, we were so close. I was
Mm.
like losing it, just going through everything, every drawer, every pile of papers, every like there has to be something. There wasn't, and it's just like you just drive yourself insane with the what ifs and the this, that, and the other. And I finally was able to let that go. The one thing
How old were you?
that was shit, 2012, 2024 now. I was 23. So, like I said, my poor brother was in high school still, but,
So
I,
I just cut you off when you were talking. Sorry.
oh no, you're fine.
Yeah,
Uh,
I didn't want to ruin your train of thought.
no, but it was just like that thought of like going through everything and there has to be something and it's just like, there isn't. And like I said,
That's so sad.
it,
That's like a scene from a movie or something.
it was wild, wild years of our lives at that point. And then there was so many other random other things that happened that made it even crazier. And there was a point where, um, my dad was out the picture, my mom passed, and my brother suddenly left, my older brother, and we were sitting there like it was pretty distraught, like the moment. And it was like me and my two younger brothers, and I was just like, well, and then there were three, and we all started laughing and just went back to life. Like we were just
Yeah.
so battered and abused at that point that it was just like it was insane. But now today, like my dad, we have a decent enough relationship. Like he's trying. I can't imagine being him at this point. Like that was kind of midlife, random crisisness. Like I think he's still a good person, but now to be like You know, he's going into his 60s without a partner, like without a solid partner. Like I feel bad for whatever demons he's got to deal with to this day. And you know, he, for better or for worse, I have a half sister now who's like 10 years old. So like,
Mm-hmm.
at least it's like, you know, he definitely has someone his life is focused on, and that's good because I can't imagine being by himself at this point. But it's just and I'm sharing a bunch, but I feel like it's
No,
just
sure.
important for people to know.
But you know, I'm gonna play like older, figure. You know, deep down that what you did is not the reason that your mom killed herself.
Yeah, of course, it's
You
still
know,
hard.
like it. You know that this is what I thought when you told me that story. She, he would have got caught some other way. It would, like, I'm thinking like that would have like transpired anyway, whether you delivered that message or it happened another way if you skipped delivering that message. That's what I think.
It could have been worse. She would have. My mom was strict as hell at us. She would have beat my ass if she would have found out that I didn't tell her that
Well, so you did the right thing. I think you did the right thing.
I think so too. It's still like
I
uncomfortable to
understand.
live with, you know. Like I
It's
do know
terrible.
fully that it wasn't my fault, but
Okay,
damn, it
good.
feels weird, you know.
Yeah.
There's something I'll never be able to shake.
And
Um,
do you think it was just heartbreak
yeah,
that did it?
fully in love with my dad and fully like there was a part of him that was so much more stability, and he was such a good person. Like he was in the church and everything too. Like it just went wrong later in life, I guess. But
Yeah.
he was like in so many ways, like just like the savior and things she needed in her life. Like he was smart. He loved her intensely. Like my parents were really good. People modeled their relationships off my parents, and it was just like it was hard to for a lot of people to understand. Like there was a domino effect for a few relationships, like for people that had been married for forever that are now divorced after that happened. Like
Wow.
it was a big toll on the community because they were so like. There was a time when I'd go back to Arizona and like I'll be like, "Fuck, I'm gonna see somebody my mom knows or something." Like you just didn't want to go back, you know. Now Arizona's grown so much, I never see anybody I know, which is nice.
Yeah.
uh, but that like they had such an effect on the community, so like that really like kind of was just like wow, if that happened to those two, like holy shit, it was just a crazy one for a lot of people. So it was a whole ripple effect of things that happened after that, but you know, it happened and you just move on. And it's just like, I'm a real big advocate for like, my mom wasn't like saying like, she wasn't over there, I'm going to kill myself or nothing. Like it's the ones who suffer in silence that you got to really try to reach out to. Because like, as much as she was depressed, she never gave up any sign of like, those type of things were going to happen. So, it's just an interesting, a real weird thing, and obviously there's a big spike in it in young kids and all that. But I think people just don't really think of like the finality of what it is. Like once it's that, it's done. Like, dude, somebody, you know, a friend of ours passed away the other day from suicide, and it's just like, I mean, you can say that almost every other week. It feels like somebody knows somebody who killed themselves, and it's like maybe try moving to another state. Like there's so many different options, and like if
Yeah.
you know the size of the world, you would never think that that's the option. Like there's so many different things to go see and different ways you can live and all that. So like to anybody who ever would think that, like please don't. Like you could literally pick up and go start a whole new life somewhere, and maybe that's the life you were looking for this whole time. Like you
Yeah.
don't
Or
know.
at least a distraction, right? Like a pause.
Anything, but like, it can always get worse, but it can always get better if you just keep going. And there's no option of it getting better if you just end it. So like, don't if that's the end thing that's gonna happen anyways. Wait around another year or two and try to see if things get better. But like that idea that that's what you need to do is just such a tough pill for me to swallow for people. So like anybody who would ever consider that, you can DM me, call me, whatever. I'm down to talk to whoever, whenever. I don't care. Like, and then beyond that, like, just reach out. Like, you're not alone. People go through those thoughts all the time. Like, it's a common thing, even with people who are the most put together people you know. It happens. You think
Yeah.
that way, you know how to act on it. So
Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. Um, that's really cool advice. It's a really cool perspective of like, you could move. You could
It's
like
that simple.
go
It's like,
camping. You could go fucking eat ice cream, like anything to like get out of that moment, you know?
yeah, there's so many like, and yeah, there's just so many. Try everything before you try that.
Yeah. And it's amazing that your DMs are open. I always tell kids that same thing. So I'll say that too. My DMs are always open if you need to talk or whatever. But
I like. I mean, shoot, even before I got started to see the world and everything else, like, just like being there for people and all that. But my mom was too. You never know what can drive you to that, I guess. But like,
mm,
I just have a sense of like wanting to help everyone around me, so it'll always fuel me to like keep going, even when I feel shitty. Like being able to help somebody have a place to stay or move along in
yeah.
their career, or realize that they don't have a career. Like there's very important things you can do as somebody who helps, like as a mentor or whatever. Like
Mm,
tough conversations that people don't want to have that you can have, and then they can look back and be like, wow, that was like a defining moment in my life. Like, and just from our experiences, like everybody in skateboarding, we've all seen a lot of shit. We've all been through a lot of shit. We've all been the person to be shitted on. We've all been everything. So like, it's our job to be there for the next generation and generation after that. Like Mike Sinclair is somebody who's been there for me in a lot of ways, and he's told me the stories. You've told me the stories. Like I've learned
mm.
so much from you. Like there's so many people, and so I just want to be that for the next person. So no,
Yeah,
nothing,
that's awesome.
you know. Yeah.
Um, what would you say to other parents?
What would I say to other parents? Like parents who are depressed.
Yeah, like your mom took her own life and basically left you guys, you know.
You know what? I don't have that selfish of a thought. Like I love my mom so much,
Mm-hmm.
but it destroyed me forever knowing that my little brother was still there, not even close to grown up, and she did that. Like she didn't think that our love was enough, or my brother's need for her was enough, and all that. Like it was a real selfish moment that happened, and it built up over time of her selfishly thinking about herself,
Mm-hmm.
and it is selfish. What she did was completely selfish. Like she has kids, she has everything. She didn't think
Mm-hmm.
about anybody but herself in that moment. And it doesn't mean I don't love her or feel for her in that depression, but like she left Ben like in the worst spot, and he's done great, and he's a fucking great dude, has made it through a lot of shit. But
Mm-hmm.
man, she could have fucked him up. And I think like if you're not gonna live for yourself, live for those other people, man.
Yeah, I
Don't.
mean, you brought them here.
Yeah,
They
we
didn't
did
ask for it.
here. So don't ditch us. Like, and like, my life would be different. I might not even be in this situation. I probably would have never went on that trip. I probably never would have met Steve Berra. Like, if my mom was alive today, I'd be helping her out in some way in Arizona. I wouldn't be in the position I'm in. That's a weird one to swallow too. Like, if she was alive, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. It's all weird, but it is. It's just the reality and the things you
Yeah.
have to accept as when these things like happen. Like, there's just realities of
Yeah,
all of it.
death is surreal. Death of a family member is like very surreal. That's the only way I could describe it. It was like painful, obviously, but like I'm like there's so much weirdness and unknown and like you said, circumstances. The ladies in the parking lot, the way your career wouldn't have happened, like
Yeah,
it's crazy.
but yeah, and it's like, trust me, I'd give up this entire career traveling the world and everything from another day with my mom. But it's just a reality you end up thinking about, why you go through it all, and that's like you said, the weird realities around death. But it's a thing we're all gonna have to go through at some point in one way or another, and hopefully not as dramatic of a way as I went through it. But who knows, if I watched my mom sit there dying to cancer like you saw your dad, like
Yeah.
maybe it would feel different. Maybe I'd feel shitty in a whole different way. It's never easy.
It's weird to watch somebody literally deteriorate like
Yeah,
for 10 months, you know? And I'm
yeah,
like, man, like I'm glad I had 10 months to say goodbye to my dad, right? But I'm so scared to get cancer now because of what I saw. Like
yeah,
it's my biggest fear. Like I'm I'm not even afraid of dying, I'm afraid of cancer.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like
I'm
so
sure.
there's something to be said for a quick death in my experience that
Yeah, no, that I
my
mean,
grandpa had a heart attack. It was like
yeah,
over in 5 minutes, you know?
yeah. My grandpa died of cancer, a long, shitty,
Oof.
depressing death. Like it just, and then so then I I have those fears too. When my anxiety was at an all-time high, thank you USA Skateboarding for that one.
Fuck.
That was like always on my mind. Like, am I gonna get cancer? I have cancer. I have this. I have that. Oh my god, I'm dying. Like my anxiety was so crazy, I couldn't even focus. And
Yeah,
so,
I remember you telling me like
yeah,
your anxiety and depression from USA Skateboarding like manifested in some wild like physical ways for you.
yeah, it did. It was just a confusing time, and but I once again, I forget. I try to forgive anybody who's ever hurts me or anything, and then on top of it, I'm thankful for the lessons I learned from that because now I'm able to deal with anxiety real well.
Mm-hmm.
I can identify when it's trying to creep up and kind of nip it in the butt, and like it's taught me so much going forward with my life. Just as sure the same as things you've dealt with within industry crazy jobs. Like you at least learned. If anything else, you at
Oh
least
yeah. You know what else I've learned? You can always like pull away, disappear, rebuild, heal, whatever the fuck, and then come back. Like I have to say, like regardless of some difficulties I've had with people or jobs or me fucking lashing out, maybe overreacting, there's I still feel like there's always a space for me in skateboarding, you know? Like even right now I'm like sending boards to like old friends, with the new board thing. And
mm-hmm.
I'm like sort of, oh, I haven't talked to this guy in a while, but I want to send him a gift. And then I have a conversation. And I'm like, oh, this is fucking cool. I feel like there's always room for me here and I can take a break and come
I
back.
like to think that the industry is more the Jim Tebow industry than it is some other people's. Let's hope if
I,
everyone could be a
I
little more.
think it is. I think people are getting better too at like not holding grudges.
I mean, let's hope. Like it's if anything we learn is like hopefully people can change, people can grow, we can all learn, and like we just got to make a better industry for the ones coming up and leave it better than it was given to us, and that's all we all can hope for as a civilization.
I want to end this on the most important thing. First off, thanks for telling that story. Um, Thanks for not being afraid to cry. I like started tearing up. Um, I know that's not easy. Thanks
You
for
know,
what?
you asked
Go.
me a question during this, and it reminded me like you asked me like where do I think I got my like want to help everyone from, and it's
Uh
from
huh.
my and
Yeah.
a Japanese TV show like last year came to interview me about Yuto, and they're like, "What made you want to help Yuto?" Like with everything and blah blah. Like that's such a random thing for somebody to like want to help somebody like that. And I started saying like, "Well, my mom," and I started crying so hard out of nowhere. Like I didn't expect it to happen. And then
Yeah.
people were like, "We're so sorry." I was like,
Oh,
"Cause I'm Japanese," and I was like, "It's okay. Like I'm glad it happens. It's good to get out there and feel better. Like it's a.
yeah.
I'm happy that these things remind me of my mom, and it makes me cry because I miss her. But it's also like a happy moment of like how much she helped me with become who I am.
I don't, like I said, this show is an entirely different thing than I think skateboarding has seen.
Yeah,
Like I've got like 2 or 3 guests crying already, like
it's
half
pretty
my
good.
guests. Yeah.
Got
And
a
I'm
good.
like, it's so good for ratings. But no, but um I'm a believer in crying. Like sometimes I'll watch a specific movie just to make me cry because I feel like I need to get something out, you know? I'm like, I think I need to cry, you know? And
Yeah.
I don't know, things like this are helpful for me, like these conversations and hopefully you feel better having cried a little bit.
Uh,
Hopefully you're not like, fuck you, you made me cry.
there's a song "Fire and Rain," and that one will get
Oh,
that good crier. You can listen to that one if you ever need to cry. Anybody?
yeah. Okay. Well, I just wanted to say thank you and like for sharing that story. And I think it's super important. And I'm glad you're passionate about passing on that message. We talked about it before we did this interview that you really wanted to discuss that and share it with people to help people. But the most important thing is you got back with the Olympics, which makes your Olympics tattoo completely not a waste.
Not insane. That's who I have.
Like, I swear to God, dude, when USA skateboarding ended, I was like, that dude had an Olympic tattoo. He was like really down. And I was like, and I'm like, that's so sad, you know. And then when you got rehired, the first thing I thought of was your Olympic tattoo. And I was like, it all worked out, dude. It all worked out.
Hey, and even if I'm gone from it again, like I've learned to take experiences like and be happy about them and grow from them instead of just like be sad. So if round two ends, it's all good. We'll
Yeah,
keep
I think
that
like
way.
yeah, going to round two different Olympics is something most people never do. So like having a tattoo and having worked for two different Olympic organizations, it's all right. It's
It's
not a
fun.
mistake. It's not a no regrets tattoo.
Recurrence. Oh my god, man. Well, I appreciate you. I'm
Dude,
glad you
thanks.
show. I think you're in the like this is right up your alley with what you're supposed to be doing. So I'm
Yeah.
stoked.
Cool. Well, 3 hours and 4 minutes, dude. I'm gonna
Sorry.
let you go. Dude, you're flying out on Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Have a safe trip. Have fun. Have some blue cheese and croissants and honey for me. Some
Yeah,
tea.
I'll send
Some
you pictures.
yeah. Send me some food photos and like some Parisian like art or fashions or something.
Got you, my man.
All right, dude.
Hope we come home with some medals.
Yeah, dude. Win us some fucking medals.
We're gonna
It's,
give it our damn best.
you're as responsible as Nyjah is to bring us medals.
Then we got it.
Okay.
Then we.
All right, dude. Have a good night.
Thanks.
All right. Talk later.